Good evening. Call the meeting to order. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to go right to item 3, minutes. You can bear with us. We haven't done minutes in a few months, so we got about 7 or 8 of them.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we do that at the end? No, really, we can take up the other, this kind of routine stuff.
Yeah, what time is it?
7:20.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the hour. All right, I'm going to go to, Mr. Leary, good idea. I'm going to go to item 6, 720, amend the common victual license, Nan's Center Cafe, 118 Park Street.
Hi, do I stand up?
Please come up to the podium. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Mrs. Hoey?
Hi, yes, I'm Ronnie Hoey.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. So I'm just here to request an amendment for the common vic license.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what else I'm supposed to say or what I'm supposed to do, so please bear with me.
Welcome to town and
Thank
best of
you.
luck.
Thank you very much.
I anticipate that we're going to approve this.
How's
That's
the
why I said.
It's different.
Okay.
It's not the same. Of course, we have a new cook. I am making some modifications. It's actually Restaurant Impossible. I've been there since 7 this morning with some of the local folks helping me. I've completely remodeled the entire front of the restaurant, the back of the restaurant this weekend. I'm pulling down the outside smoker in the shed house, getting rid of that, making a lot of amendments and updates. I have folks coming in this week to install appropriate chemicals and sanitation throughout the entire restaurant. I have just today updated the fire suppression system and all the, I've installed a fire alarm and theft alarm throughout the restaurant, changed all the locks on the doors. So you'd be quite impressed. If you've been there, I think you're going to be surprised when you walk in. Everything
Fix
has...
the broken window?
Broken window
It
is
is fixed.
fixed.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So, yeah, and I am implementing no smoking throughout the whole restaurant and outside, their surrounding
Wow.
neighborhoods. So I'm making a lot of changes. So, and the hash, I think you'll like it.
Very good. Motion, Mr.
Yes,
Hoey?
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend the common victular license for 118 Park Street to read as follows. Hoey Enterprises, Inc., DBA Nan Center Cafe, subject to all regulatory department requirements.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
It's
you.
unanimous.
Best
Great.
of luck.
Best of
Thank you
luck
very
to you.
much.
Best of luck.
Thank
Great
you, I
job.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Leary will be down for hash on Saturday.
I'll be
morning.
Great, thank you.
Anyone here for public comment? Nope. All right. Take care of that one. We'll go to our FY 2015 budget hearings.
Okay.
Mrs. Stats, you're up first. Town clerk. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Well, you have the budget. We have 2 budgets, the records and the elections budget. If we go through, which one do you have a preference for? That you
Whatever
want?
one you have in front of you.
Okay, well, records
choice.
is first usually. The only changes reflected in the election budget are a little bit in the salary, contractual salary increases. And then I am looking for a couple of software programs to automate dogs and licensing, and that's an additional under professional services. So that's an additional $52.90 for those 2 software items. The rest is just minor increases to accommodate increased advertising costs and printing costs and postage costs in there, but the $52.90 is and definitely an increase in my budget.
Any questions for Mrs. Stats on that portion of her budget?
At this point, we do licensing manually still, so we're writing out dog licenses and business licenses. It's not very professional looking, and there's no interface as far as producing a report or mailing labels or things like that. So this would be automate the process. We have recently gotten Microsoft Office on our computer at the counter, so it would be a very convenient thing to do it right at the counter now as the public comes in.
Would it give you the ability to track those that need to renew, hadn't renewed?
Yes.
like probably my household?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I haven't looked, but yeah, we do not have that ability right now. So that should give us that ability. The particular program I'm looking for is customizable to our needs. They don't just give us a canned report, which is very nice, because some of the other programs, I've looked at 3, and they're canned programs. You just have to take what they give you. But the particular one I'm looking for in both the dogs and the licensing, they will tailor it to our needs. It's built around access, so it's, very suitable to the working environment with the Microsoft programs. Another one is under rather older technology, under Fox Pro, and another one was just priced just out of the ballpark, so I wasn't considering that.
Michael?
Do you have a commitment from the IT folks that if we approve this, it'll actually get done in 6 months, 3 months from the time you purchase it?
I don't think that there is a problem with it, because we did check into the compatibility to what we have, and as I said, this particular one runs on Access. And so since our whole town hall right now has migrated to Microsoft Office 2010, that's ideal. There's really no conflict. When we were first considering it, it appeared that some of our computers might still be on 2003 and some on 2010, and there might have been a little bit of difficulty in not using the program, but it communicating well enough to open up readily. But now that's a non-issue.
So the IT department's
it's-
on board?
Yeah, and the company is the one that will install it and take it from there. It's really not going to require any IT support, so it won't take away from our resources here from other things.
Is this program going to be installed, the database going to be put on the server?
Yes.
And the workstations just need runtime access, do you know?
I believe it is, according to the
Yeah.
specifications that Barbara sent from the representative of the company, so.
Yeah.
So,
So-
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm
Go
sorry.
on.
Does
Go
the
on.
5,300 include the modifications you were talking about that the company will or can make for you?
Yes, it does. It does. They have sat with other communities and discussed exactly what you need. Correct. And that figure also includes the first year's maintenance. After 6 months is free, and then it kicks in after 6 months. So that price includes that, and that's for both the dogs and the licensing, business licensing modules too. Thank you.
Any questions? Board members?
Good.
Okay. And elections is the big one. We switch this year from 1 election in this fiscal year's budget to 3 in FY15. So that covers a primary in September, it's a state primary. I would like to comment at this time that it was on the election calendar for September 16th, and there has been an adjustment by the Secretary of State's office and the governor to change that date and make it 1 week earlier. And this was to accommodate federal regulations that require mailing of absentee ballots to overseas voters. So just for your benefit and for the public's benefit, and it is up on the website, that the September state primary is now September 9th. It may appear on various calendars that were already printed as September 16th. That change occurred sometime in December. It even was on our census forms when it went out as the old date, because the census forms were long printed. The shell was printed long before the change was made. So that's one thing. So as I said, the September primary, the November general election, and the May 2015 town election are covered under the FY15 budget. So that is an increase in the number of budgets, which of course escalates all of the other costs associated with the budget for elections, such as supplies and programming costs, the services under professional services for police details, and if we have the need of public works for late night setups or such. And those are the biggest consideration. Of course, salaries of election workers. Everything is times 3 in this budget versus 1.
Questions, Michael?
So that specific non-union wages that went up 11,197, What is that increase for?
Under personnel services,
Yeah, under
increase
non-union
12,992, is that the one you're looking at?
wages. No, it's an increase of 11,197.
11,197. Oh, thank
I'm on
you.
the spreadsheet.
Non-union wages?
Yes, non-union wages. That is election worker salaries.
That's, okay.
Yeah, that's election worker salaries, thank you.
And that's because we have an additional
Two.
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 Got it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Anything else from Mrs. Stats?
Nope.
Finance Committee? Mr. Valiakonis?
Recommended as proposed.
Going forward, you said that the first 6 months maintenance for this new software is included. Do you know what the costs are after that?
$890 per year is what the maintenance is for the two programs.
What do we do for that?
Well, they will make modifications if we want it actually to the program itself. They're very accommodating for that, but it's for assistance. It's to migrate the data, to help migrate the data from year to year so it renews. It's support just like all the other computer programs and computer modules have for assistance. If you don't purchase that maintenance agreement, then the costs are by an hourly wage if you need to have them come on site.
Does that include, Barbara, updates to their software
Yes, it does.
during the period you have the contract?
It does. It does. Unlimited phone support, unlimited remote support, all upgrades and changes made to forms and reports, yearly maintenance of database structure. It includes, to begin with, 3 hours of on-site transitional training for the staff. And as I said, the maintenance payments begin 6 months after the database is installed.
Is there a limit to the number of users or computers that can be running the client?
All 3 of us in our office would be on this.
No, there's no need for anyone else?
There's no need for anyone else, no.
Is there anything further?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Nice budget.
CPC.
Gonna get some first.
Hi, Danielle.
Excuse me. I don't have too much of a voice tonight, so please bear with me. Good evening. Just wanted to briefly go through our proposed budget. There are no changes at all in funding requests for this year from last year. Just wanted to briefly highlight a couple of things that the CPC office has gone through this year. We've been hard at work planning for a new medical marijuana bylaw for our October town meeting. We've been working on some upgrades to our office as far as increasing efficiency and better customer service. And to that end, Debbie in our office has worked very, very hard to digitize all of the flat file plans that we have on file in our office. We've been working on assisting some proposals for new development and also taking some current construction kind of that's commenced this year through the process. And we've also been assisting with the MAPC North Suburban Region with their regional planning efforts, including a new planning for regional housing services office and also planning for participating in their priority mapping project this year. So with that, there isn't really a lot to highlight because we have no changes in the budget, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Budget looks fine, but just in relation to the level of activity that your office is seeing?
Yes.
As far as, we don't have a lot of room for subdivisions and stuff these days, but what are we seeing, what can we anticipate for new growth?
In terms of applications that we have not yet had, or applications that we've dealt with over the past year, or just, are you talking about just
Are there
projections?
trends? Is there an uptick in activity that you're seeing?
Somewhat, yes. I think there was a little bit of a lull for a while, especially with residential, and there still is a lull with the kind of subdivision activities that I think the office was seeing some years back. We've only had one new subdivision come in this year, and it was only for 2 lots on Nutter Road. Most of the activity we've seen over the past year has been commercial. So, for example, the new Firestone store that'll be opening on Main Street will be getting construction soon. The renovations to Dunkin' Donuts, the renovations to Starbucks, the beginning of construction for the North Reading Transportation building on Main Street, and the one subdivision that had been permitted years ago but that has started construction this year was the Charles Street Extension subdivision.
That seems to have stalled out, though.
They didn't do much for the winter. They say they're still working, but yeah, you're right, they hadn't done very much, that's true.
One of the board's goals is clearly to expand our commercial base. And from my perspective, CPC is a key player in this. In terms of our goals, in terms of trying to bring in some additional commercial development, whether it's to fill vacant property or, we have the Berry property is now back to the state and so on and so forth. Within the budget, is there enough in terms of dollars and resources to, move this mission that we have forward? Concern is that we're not putting enough emphasis, energy, resources into this whole thing.
Well, we've started meeting recently with Mr. Prisco and Peter Milano from the state, who's been very helpful as a resource for us in terms of getting the ball rolling on some economic development activity for the town. We've started to talk about things like assessing some of our strengths and weaknesses, looking at what types of businesses might do better in North Reading, in preparation for both in preparation for future sewer activity, but also just in preparation for the short term when we know that we don't have that to work with. What might do well, what kinds of businesses might make sense to recruit. I had been in conversation with the Department of Housing and Community Development about pursuing a grant opportunity this June that would allow us to at least do a market study to take a look at what might do well in North Reading and where we should focus our economic development activities, and how we should focus ourselves. And so that will be kind of one track that we will be working on, but also just in terms of identifying specific properties that we can try to find some solutions to. We've talked about following up with the state on the Berry property. We've also spoken about some other possible properties in town that there's been some interest, expressed in recently that we'd like to see cleaned up and redeveloped.
Yeah, we're actually working with Senator Tarr's office and Representative Jones' office on a couple on Route 28, in particular, that particular salt barn. You've seen it about 86 Main Street. We're going to be meeting with DCAMS hopefully in the next month or so. I actually got a call saying sometime in April to see what their future plan is with that particular lot. And
I thought they sold that a few years back. The deal didn't go through because they actually put it up in. I was under the impression that it was sold.
Remember?
Right?
Yeah, I remember they put it up in that. I thought there was a bid and somebody had bought it.
Yeah.
Well, we're meeting with DCAMS to figure out where it is and what's the status, so we can, because there are some potential companies that are interested in coming into Route 28, even without storage. So that's why we've been working with Peter Milano from the Economic Development Office at the State House. He's been a great help. So we are making some progress, slow but we're making.
One of the other things that we've been talking about is a piece of property out on Concord Street, which might be eligible for some sort of a brownfields. We haven't taken possession of it yet.
No.
Because it's contaminated. And they can't sell it because, and supposedly we can't reduce what's owed to us under state statute. And we've been talking over the years here about getting our legislators to do something about it. But that's right out on Concord Street. It's a prime piece of real estate that needs to be cleaned up, first of all. But it's just lying there dormant and overgrown. Revenue-wise, it's doing nothing for us. And that should all be part of the...
Yeah, I have a little update on that particular lot. The lot is apparently clean. The problem is that, I think it's DEP, actually has $1 million lien on that property, maybe a little bit more, and wants to get repaid for cleaning the property. There's still equipment on the property that's testing the soils, but I believe the property is clean. Also, in this year's budget with the State House, the Brownfield Redevelopment Act, they want to, there's a push to refund that. With even North Reading potentially get some money from that, and that's one of the things that Brad Jones and I are supposed to talk about this week. We need his support in getting that funding through. The governor put it in there. We need, we're hoping that it gets the full support when the budget gets approved, because we have potential to get some money. Even some of that money could go towards the old Lou's gas station and assisting the owners of that property to try to clean it up, to make it a more usable property, so we can get that back in the tax rolls. So that's an important piece, the Brownfields Act. And so we are working that too. And that parcel will come into play. But the problem is $1 million, and I don't believe, based on what Peter Milano's telling me, he doesn't believe they're gonna be willing to waive it in any way. They're gonna wanna get their money.
I don't know what tax bill, our tax lien is gonna be close to $1/3 million or more.
That's right, Steve. And the DEP and EPA also have liens on the property too.
So that can't, so the thing is, economically, it's not feasible for anybody to buy it.
Right.
You know, unless, and I think by law, we can't waive it. To me, it's not doing us any good. I'd waive it if someone could buy it.
Right.
You know.
Mass Development says that they don't think that property's going anywhere anytime quick. But
It's been like that for years. So anyway, again, I don't know what the planning commission's position is on it.
On that property? Yeah, same thing, exactly. Like to get it moved, but we can't, we're kind of tied from, what's happening with it. It's cleaned, and the test wells, I think, still on it. They're still, the state's still doing testing to make sure nothing's moving out of the site, or has moved out of the site, so.
Right.
And I think the state spent money, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened to it.
yeah, there's a lot of people that have invested in that cleaning it up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but to Bob's point, as far as, do we have any money, and again, we don't have it necessarily in our budget, and I don't see any being proposed in their budget, as far as, again, jump-starting this Economic Development Commission, in keeping with our goals and objectives. If we're not gonna be investing it in our budget, we're gonna be investing and have money set aside for some sort of impetus to get this thing moving. Another year gets wasted. So I don't know what the planning commission has proposed, or any ideas as to how we can move some ideas forward, and what would it cost? What do we need? Do we need some other outside consulting help to assist us? And if so, put some money in for professional services to get it, if it's really truly gonna get us moving ahead.
Mr. Pierce, you want to come up?
I think the problem.
Warren, you might want to use the mic so people at home could hear.
What we probably need to do is to focus on the properties that we have that are available for use, that are ready to use, like the Stop and Shop property, and try to find uses for that. And similar to what the planning board did back when we went after Walmart. But there was a bit of work involved there, and we had the advantage of having used some research that was done by, for example, Stop and Shop, to entice a company like Walmart to come. We had, traffic study and customer bases and all those things. So, and I'm not sure if Bridgestone did any of that market analysis that we might be able to get from them, but you have to sell the idea that the property is worthwhile and that there's a customer base to somebody to come in. So I think that there's a certain amount of work that it took to do that even back then. Now, we don't have a whole lot of work in the planning board right now, but we do have some things that we're working on. So whether or not we have enough resources at this point to put together a full-fledged program to go after, companies like this or things that might be able to use these properties, I'm not sure. That would be something we'd have to calculate out to see what kind of time we would take.
I'm looking, as far as the Stop and Shop property, we have the other property that's adjacent to it, the Heffron property. Same, can join the.
Well, to bring that, I actually have a concept, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but about what could happen there. There's actually a huge opportunity there with
Right.
those properties combined. And, you know, there's, the trail park would be involved and so forth, and there may be a reconfiguration of that entire property necessary, but that could be a huge diamond in the rough for us right there, that could provide for the town perhaps a location that would be a substitute center, if you will. There's a possibility there.
Little shopping village and.
Right, and using, because there's a lot of parking and Stop and Shop, and there's a lot of possibilities there, but that's a fairly large project to be developed, and I've actually spoken to the owner of the property about that very thing, about a cooperative development with all those properties together. But it's not something that we've gone into at the on the board right now, because we've been actually pretty busy with some of these other items that have come along, our new bylaws and so forth that we have to work on. So. Whether there's, again, Danny, we'd have to talk about if there's a cost that we would need to recover in order to pursue some of those things, because we'd want to get some kind of an idea. We'd have to propose some kind of an idea. The town would definitely have to be involved in the project. It's not a project that you're probably going to sell to a developer. The town would have to be maybe a party to getting a
If we
development.
zone it such that requires certain types of structures and development, then, you know, it incents people, and if we could, again, if you could assist us, and the planning commission could assist us, as far as what can we do for tax incentives? I mean, we've never done it. I mean,
We've never done
I've been
tax
involved for
incentives,
almost
right.
40 years, and we've never done it. We talk about it, but we never do it.
Well, you know, one of the things, a good example I can point out to you is the Walker's Brook Drive in Reading.
Right.
When they first began that project, there was only one tenant, and everybody thought, something's gonna happen, but everybody got so excited about that project, that whole area just like blew up overnight. And it was because a group of people got really excited about what was gonna be there and about what was gonna be available there and what the other businesses would draw and the level of participation they'd get out of the local area, which turned out to be true. That's the kind of thing we'd have to do over there. And the town was very much involved in making sure that happened. The town of Reading was, and
I
Walker's
think
Brook.
that's, what I'm talking about is the board in our goals and objectives. It's clear that we've got to build a commercial base. It isn't going to happen unless we put some real effort into it. Now, this isn't meant as criticism. The question I've raised was, if the budget from last year and this year is the same, and we haven't put any real effort into this, then I have to question whether or not there's enough resources or requests for funding for resources in the budget to start to move our goals forward. That was my question.
I believe that there was an economic development committee that was being set up, but I think the Board of Selectmen were sort of driving that. It was never.
And it fits and starts to a
True,
whole multitude of reasons.
Yeah, and I
And
think in the very beginning, I pointed out how some of those were some of that was gonna happen. But only through research did I know that. So I would say that if that's something you wanna hand to us as a charge,
No, I
then-
think, I think that aspect of it has gotten some traction most recently in terms of what Danielle,
Okay.
Michael, and Peter Milano has done. I think what Mr. Messeri is saying, where is the line item in the budget to support some of these things, to do these studies and so forth, to see what may be attractive to these areas and what we could do to these areas.
Okay, there isn't one. There isn't one
Right,
because.
right.
Exactly, because the Board of Selectmen were spearheading that at the time. And so I'm saying that if you want that to be
But what if-
something, we would look at it
And
and
this
provide
isn't,
that.
this
for you.
isn't to criticize either, but and one of the goals of the CPC was also economic development. But there's no additional funding source to do something in that regard.
Right. Right, because a conceptual plan of some kind would have to be developed. If you're gonna take a piece of property, even one that exists, you're gonna have to come
Right,
up
but
with some
when
kind
do
of
we
concept.
start to do that? And how do we start to do that? We could come back year after year and still say, well,
We have been doing it.
Right?
We have been coming back year after year.
right. So I think it's time to start doing something, instead of coming back year after year and say, well, we don't have money here, but we're thinking about it.
Well, I can, if I may, economic development is a function of a couple of different things. And one of the things that it's a function of is a growth in the economy. So if there's no real growth in the economy, there's not going to be any real economic development. The only
But-
way that you're
but
going to
hold
be
on,
able
hold on.
to.
I think we gotta be on this side of that growth and plan for when growth happens so that businesses will be attractive and come here. We gotta lay out the plan.
Yeah.
We gotta show them there's a reason to come here.
You have to be more proactive than the town next door. So that what
Right,
you.
so I don't, we're behind the curve. If we're waiting for the economy to turn around, we're behind the curve. We should be planning now for when that is about to happen. Or we're never gonna take advantage of any of that.
Now, was it recently, there was something in the paper about Target moving, building
Wilmington.
in Wilmington? I mean, and is that a lost opportunity on our part?
I don't
Would
know
that have
that
been a good spot over in the Stop and Shop area for that kind of a store? I don't know the answers. All I'm saying is it seems like we need to have some boots on the ground dealing with that, 24/7, if we're gonna make it happen.
Right, and when the answer to
You
that is.
yourself just mentioned the Linfield thing when it got off. I mean, it looked like it wasn't gonna go anywhere, and then all of a sudden, things came together.
Right.
And I think we need to plant that seed somehow. And I'm not sure that that can be done within your existing budget. It's no better than it was last year. So I'm raising the question, how do we get it done? We've got to make a commitment somewhere, or we're going to be sitting here talking about it every year.
Well, if that's a charge that you wish to hand to the board, then we will focus on it.
Well, I think.
And if there's a cost to it, we have to develop that.
Somehow I get the feeling, Warren, that the CPC is in fact a key player in this.
There's no question.
So I'm looking for some leadership and also some direction from the CPC as to, how we should be supporting that effort.
So, then the existing, or the fits and starts, economic development you talked about, that basically is not going to be functioning anymore, then basically the planning board will take that over?
I think we're talking about different components. I view the Economic Development Committee as like a partnership between CPC, us, and some citizen residents who are looking to get involved. But in terms of what you may propose in a budget, in terms of what dollars you need to do certain things, that's what's not here. I think that's what Mr. Messeri is talking about.
Well, okay, and that's true. We did not have in our budget a line item for developing any of these properties. If that's something that could be done, but it wouldn't be done quickly or easily, because we'd have to sit down with some people and get some concepts put together, get some agreements, get some cooperation going with some of the people that own these properties, and then begin to develop a plan of some kind and get some costs on that. Within the constraints that we have right now, we could get a certain amount of it done within the budget that we have now. Perhaps enough to give you an idea of what those costs would be.
I think I can help you a little bit. I got involved about 3 months ago. You had asked me to get involved, and we've been meeting. Danielle, Mr. Hayden, myself, and Peter Milano from the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. And we've actually been making some, slow, but we've been making some headway. We have a lot of action items. One of them is we're actually going through the process of looking at what inventory we have out in our communities that we can build, that have opportunity for economic development. So we're still going through that process. But working with Massachusetts Office of Business Development, I think, is in our best interest. If we develop this Economic Development Committee, then they go away, because we essentially take over. So what I ask is, give us a chance, let us work with this office from the state, let us see where we get over the next couple of months. I think we're making some great headway. We get Senator Tarr's office involved with us now. Representative Jones is very aware of what we're trying to do. We're going to try to build a relationship with DCAMs, so we have some of the state properties that are here in our town, to find out what the futures are with those particular parcels. I really think we can make the progress that you're looking for. I think it's going to be difficult for them to put a budget number together over the next several weeks until we actually go through this process that we're trying to go through. And if you disagree in any way. Chris, you've been at all the meetings.
Yeah, no,
You've heard from Peter Milano.
I agree with what you said, Mike.
We are behind. The problem is right behind because no disrespect, Sean, no offense to you. You just were busy. You weren't focused on it. No one from the board, I wasn't focused on it. I'm on CPC. I didn't do it either. We just finally, that's it. Danielle and I met and we said, no, let's do this. And we're finally putting a plan together and it's actually been great. We've got a lot of work done. I can continue to send you guys emails and updates if you want, every time we meet. Whatever you want, I'm willing to do. But that's what my suggestion is. 'Cause I think you have a difficult
I guess
time.
my questions are not to interfere with what's going on. The board made a charge, and you're the liaison. It's very clear that you have things going. I guess my question is, we're talking about fiscal 2015 budget,
Mhm.
right? And I'm just raising the question as to, should we have some money in there associated with some, whether it's consulting support or whatever, right, to move this thing along? Because the budget isn't changed from last year, and it apparently, with all the things that the CPC has to do on a normal operating basis, there's no additional resources available to help this along. Now, if in fact we're gonna get all that help from the state, okay, maybe I'll keep quiet, but I just raised the question as to
No,
whether or not we
you
should
bring
be
up,
considering.
and you
it.
bring up a good question, and this is where I'm a little naive. You know, we're so early in the process. Are we going to need a consultant firm to come in and help us with some of these things we're looking at? When we do this analysis of the properties we actually have, do we need to bring a consultant firm that knows what companies would be attractive to that? Now, I know that's what Peter's office is trying to do for us right now. He's
If I
actually
could
going to be
just-
bringing us a list.
If I could just point out a couple of things. One of them is that Stop and Shop spent quite a bit of money marketing this property, and they went quite a distance trying to find somebody to take it, but it's costing them a tremendous amount of money to sit on that week after week, day after day, year after year, it seems. So they're not exactly, they're quite interested in having something happen with this property, as long as it doesn't involve a competitive business of some kind. So it's not as if, I don't think it's as if they're doing absolutely nothing, but they do have some difficulties with finding, if they're having that much trouble, what is the advantage that we have over the marketing
Well, we
people
sort of have an
that they
idea why they're having trouble.
Yeah.
They don't want to give a lease that's long enough that people can recoup what they have to invest to build out the
So
property.
they have a tenant that they use all the time, they've got 20 different stores that they've used them in, and it's a quick move in, put some fixtures in, and
Exactly.
Well, the other-
then they can throw them out as quickly as they bring them in.
The other problem, the other thing is, and you already know what the rest of the problem is, when you have these properties and you try to bring businesses in, and when you talk to consultants, the fact that we have no sewer, that we have no system there for them, always is a problem.
So we have to, instead of just saying that year after year, all right, we don't have sewer. So we have to develop a plan without sewer
Right.
as to how we can attract businesses to come here, instead of just sitting back saying,
Exactly.
there's nothing we can do because we don't have sewer.
And that's what we're
I mean,
doing
and
now.
that's
I
why,
don't think
that's why
what
we're.
I don't think that's what we've said. It's what's been said to us. When we talk to consultants, when we talk to people about that, it's one of the first things they bring up to us.
Well, one of the things that we had spoken about in meeting was trying to pursue some funding opportunity to look at two things. One, a self-assessment of what the town is doing right and what we're not doing right, where our strengths and weaknesses are. We can do something like that through Northeastern University. It costs about $5,000 for a municipality to do it. It does take staff hours because we do it ourselves. That's one thing that we've discussed doing. Another thing we've discussed doing is pursuing funding, and it's a competitive grant process, so we wouldn't be guaranteed it, but if we want to put it in our budget, we certainly can fund it, to have some technical assistance through a DHCD, to have them come in and look at what kinds of property or what kinds of businesses would do well here. We know we don't have sewer. So for the next...
I think I've heard what I wanted to hear. I mean, so those are the things that you could, I would have liked to have seen you bring to the
in
table
our
now.
budget. It truthfully never occurred to me that we had an opportunity to ask for that kind of
Why not? This is your
funding.
opportunity to ask what you think you need to improve this community.
And to me, while the board is taking some initiative and trying to take it, to me, it's almost like we trying to fill a vacuum here. To me, it truly mostly lies with the Community Planning Commission as far as the initiator of discussion and zoning and whatever it's going to take, you know, and then for us, as community leaders, to go out and help sell it. So to me, unless we make an investment to put some of these tools together, I mean, I've seen such a lack of progress over the years. And again, I've been sitting here for a long time, so hold me responsible. You've been there a long time. We've been there a long time. You know, a lot of us have been here, and we talk a good game, but it's, you know, it's passing us by, and you look at every other community around us, and it has to do with proximity, it has to do with traffic counts, it has to do with all the demographics and sewerage. And, you know, we have to be realistic as far as our capability of going to the public and convincing them that an investment in a sewage treatment, you know, which is going to be millions of dollars, you know, is worth it, and there is going to be a return as far as tax relief. But you got to make the investment at first. We have to do the studies. We have to do all of that, and we have to see really what's going to drive. If we have it, we don't have it. We don't have it. So what can we do instead or in the meantime? You know, it's going to take a generation or more to really get the thing going. In the meantime, we can't just sit here and do nothing.
If we come up with a grand plan for a location to create something in one of these areas, there's going to have to be some kind of wastewater system there. You know, even if it's, you know, even if it ends up being an on-site system of some kind,
Some
I
sort of a
mean,
district,
it's going to
yeah.
have to, you know, be a treatment plant type system, because you cannot put a situation like they did at Walkersburg Drive with all that density, because there's no room left for any kind of a thing. You're going to have some kind of an off-site wastewater program. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So that's going to be a part and parcel of any real growth that you have. It's going to be part and parcel of this. You're not going to get, you'll get small growth. You'll get, you maybe try to convert an existing building to a use, but it won't be an improved use. It'll be an existing use because it'll be limited by its ability to handle wastewater. I mean, that's just the plain facts of it. So until we come to grips with that and do something with it, you know, that's the road we're going to go down. We can try to find uses for those existing buildings with their existing capacities and capabilities. That's all we can do. We've got to look at it in a much bigger scope.
And we're going through that process of listing those properties right now.
Yeah.
What are the options? The other thing, too, that's missing, that we talked a lot about, is our marketing plan.
Mhm.
We do not have a marketing plan for North Reading, and we have Amazon they are in our town, and we haven't gone out there and embraced them and really welcomed them to this town, and that's something that we're working with Mr. Milano and his office. He's going to help us build a marketing plan, incorporate Amazon into our discussions, go meet with them, and you know, we really should, there should be a sign up there, you know, thanking them for being in this town, and really welcome them and build off of that. You know,
Maybe they should tell them about the Berry property before they go elsewhere.
it's not big enough. But we're working on some other ideas.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's work to be done, and I agree. If we can put some money in the budget to do some of these studies that you mentioned. I haven't heard some of those. That's great. I love the idea.
Is it too late for this year? Do you want me to suggest adding it, or are we talking of, I mean, I didn't know that
feels
was the
about
direction
it,
I could
but-
go with the budget, but.
Well, it sounds to me like in the area of $10,000 or $15,000 you could produce, you could get some of these programs in place, if you're looking for a number.
Yeah.
Why don't we meet? We have a meeting again with Peter. I think we should get his consultations,
Sure.
and he would probably advise us as well
Okay.
of where we should invest the money, and then maybe come back.
And again, if we get the Economic Development Commission up and going, you know, they're gonna need some sort of funding to, through, and I see it through your staff, to really move it along. And, you know, whether it be studies or hired outside consultants to do the legwork,
Mhm.
I mean, don't hamstring ourselves.
Yeah.
Spend the money
We
up
do have
front.
you have to, can't lose sight of the fact that the sewer stops at the Andover line and starts again at the Reading line. In between, there's nothing.
Yeah, and I do have to say,
And that's just how it is.
when I had a conversation with
But we-
DHCD about doing a study through their DLTA program, their district local technical assistance, she was throwing out a few ideas, and I said, and Reading has done this really well, and Reading has done that really well. I said, you know that we don't have sewer. What? North Reading doesn't have sewer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, hold on,
That's
I
the-
have to get back to you, let me think of some things, and it is a reality.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's a
saying we should
reality.
do nothing, but it
Yeah.
it
Right,
is
we
a
can't, because
reality.
it is the reality, so we're
Right.
gonna market it based upon that
Right.
reality, because town sewer is gonna be 10, 15 years at a minimum down the road. So we can't sit here And then 10,
Right.
15 years, who knows
But
where
there
we're
is a
gonna be.
formulation of plan for
Right.
soup, so, I mean, it's like, creating a partnership, what's,
But there's still businesses that are interested in moving this town even with that issue. And
That's
that's,
what we have to market to.
and that's what we have to market to.
We have on our agenda coming up later on, signing the intermunicipal housing agreement,
Yes.
all right? I don't, maybe I'm looking at the wrong budget, but in terms of FY15,
We have
Our-
to come back to town meeting,
you have to come back to town meeting?
as far as I understand.
And when?
In October.
Why wouldn't it be, for what? I mean, Well,
If we
shouldn't
want
it
to
be-
continue to participate a second year. Though the contract is for 2 years.
right, and I know we have the option of bailout after a year.
Right.
This is year one,
Right.
we're just, Mr. Hayden joins us up the podium. You don't want to keep yelling from back there?
No, this is something, when we had you had your meeting before the town meeting in October, we went over this, we were gonna try it for 1 year. If we got something out of it, then we were gonna go back.
Oh, I
That's,
understand, but don't you need to have something in your budget for FY, we're going into FY15, don't you need to have
well,
something?
you know, I'm not quite sure who owns this, because this was a selectman-sponsored article.
All right, so
And-
then,
and-
Mr. Valiakonis, is there someplace in one of these budgets that accounts for what our cost would
no,
be?
Danielle stated it correctly. The current appropriation that we have that came from June town meeting will carry us through this time next calendar year. Okay, so we will be signing the agreement, and the 1-year clock will start upon signing of that agreement and payment of the funds. The CPC and Danielle will assess the validity of that program going forward for appropriation at the October town meeting, so that in fact we can fund the second year of it. So the money, we already have an appropriation that covers us for the
I'm not
first
talking
year.
about FY14, I understand, FY14, we have
Yeah,
money in the.
No, but we haven't paid anything yet.
I know we haven't spent it yet, but we're.
It's gonna be a
Sign the
calendar year,
agreement.
not a fiscal year.
Oh.
It's gonna be a calendar year, not a fiscal year. So if you sign it now, it's gonna be, say, for effective April
Right.
1st, it'll be April 1st till next March 30th,
Okay.
you know?
Judge,
So come October, we're gonna have to fill the gap.
I want to be clear, it's an
Evaluate the
appropriate,
program
Right.
and then vote on it.
And that's what we
Hold
went
on,
through.
hold on, one at a time, one at a time.
quick, it's an appropriation, it survives the end of the fiscal year, it doesn't go anywhere. The money that we want.
But it was under a separate article.
Mhm.
It was appropriation under article
Eleven.
rather than departmental budget.
Okay.
Right? Liz?
Yes.
You know, and so the intention would be, maybe, to put it under the CPC if we're gonna continue on with the program, or do 1 more year under a separate article.
That's-
But then if it becomes part of a program, then it gets incorporated into the.
Right, that's why we didn't include that in this article, because of that.
Mr. Callaway.
When the article was brought forth in October, what did we anticipate happening? When were we going to join this?
The intermunicipal agreement would be signed pretty much right now, around this time period, and then it would start July 1st, would be the beginning of the program.
So we never expected it to start before
No.
beginning of fiscal 15.
Oh, and I
No,
thought it was gonna be
no,
sooner
no,
than that.
no.
As a matter of fact, I thought it was gonna be a little quicker.
Yeah, I
turnaround.
thought it was gonna be
Otherwise,
this
there wouldn't have been
timeframe,
a need for
it
an
may
appropriation.
have,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
it may have changed within, the.
No, it was gonna take
That's out of
place in the
our-
current
It was
fiscal
gonna start,
year.
it was supposed to start about
You're
now.
right. You're right, it was gonna
March,
be, it was
April.
gonna be early spring, you're right.
So you're saying now it's gonna be July 1?
It's now,
June 30th.
That's why I asked.
Really?
now it's July 1st.
July 1st, 2014, yeah,
It is.
to June 30th, 2016.
I'm gonna turn to the fin-
I
Mr. Vale?
I just have a question, is the contract being signed for 2 years, or is there a 1 year and an opt-out or add-on? Because if it's signed for 2 years, then we're responsible for 2 years.
It's for 2 years.
The contracts are 2 years? I thought there
With
was
the
an
an
opt-out.
opt-out.
There is
really?
an opt-out. It is,
But
there's
you have
After
to
2
fund-
years or after?
No,
1
after
year?
1 year.
after
there's an
1 year.
opt-out.
Okay.
But you still have to fund it for the 2 years? You should fund it for the 2 years ahead of time. Then if you don't, exactly, you should, if we're gonna sign it for 2 years,
Okay.
you have to sign, you have to have the funds available for 2 years to sign the contract. Doesn't mean you're gonna spend it,
Right.
but it means you have to have the funds available.
I see.
Mr. Keller?
And we only have 1 year funding.
Correct.
Well, money's
I was going to say,
appropriated on a
this
fiscal year
didn't
basis.
need to happen until
1 year.
fiscal 16, but it sounds like we've got to get it all in fiscal 15. We have to have the funds.
Time out.
Plus, it sounds like.
Time out.
Mr. Valiakonis.
Time out. All contracts are subject to annual appropriation. Doesn't matter if you sign a 5-year contract. If town meeting fails to appropriate the money, you're out of the contract. So the fact that you have 1 year appropriation in hand right now is sufficient to simply sign the agreement this evening if you desire the services are appropriate. And Daniel and I will both recommend that they are.
Yeah, but we need to do it before July 1st.
Yes.
So if you got to talk, whoever you're talking with.
Oh, you mean to begin the program before July 1st?
Well, I think we have to have the money committed before.
No.
No?
No, the funds will not go, I mean, you
Okay.
could use them next year.
Yeah.
They're in a special article,
Because
so.
it's
Oh, that's right.
because
It was
it's
on
separate.
It's in our article, it's not in
Yes,
the
they're not
budget.
disappearing.
That's right. Good.
And then based on that, we were talking about October, it wouldn't have to be till June.
Well, my concern
Right?
is if
It
it
wouldn't have to be till June if
expires.
it's not a July 1.
We just want to make
Hold
sure
on,
it doesn't
hold on.
expire mid-year, mid-fiscal year. That's my only concern is
No,
that.
it's June 30th.
We need to give them notice,
It
though.
ends-
We do need to give them, I think it's 6 months' notice.
Oh, so it'll have to be October.
Yeah.
I wanted to come back to the Market Street, to the economic development plan. So I don't know how they did it, but Linfield did the Market Street developments. Could we learn anything from how they did that? And then, of course, they have sewer, but presumably that was done with the town. So could we figure out how they did that and try to replicate it as much as possible, or at least be inspired by it?
They did detour 128 for North Reading.
First of all, that was a very difficult project for them, but the town wasn't definitely, you're absolutely right, the town got involved in it, which is why I suggested that if we're gonna do a thing like that, the town needs to be involved in it to make it work.
But Warren, most of the difficulty was timing. I mean,
Yeah.
they bought it and then everything kind of started to.
The crash,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And-
So that was actually a long time in the making too, so that actually began quite a while ago.
Because they sat on it for
Quite a
5,
while.
6 years.
Yeah, so that wasn't a very expensive, that was an expensive investment for them in the end. They're hoping that, I mean, ultimately, it appears that it finally did take off and they'll recover at some point, but it was not easy for them, so.
But
I was in and out of that town hall a number of times, and they moaned about all the problems and the difficulties and the costs. So, but the town needs, but because the town was involved, it forged ahead, and ultimately, what you have is quite a development, quite a place.
I think,
So,
Warren, basically, just what you're saying here is true. Any large project isn't gonna happen overnight. And it's a matter of getting the seeds planted, working with all the issues, and, working as a partner to say, yeah, we're working to having sewer, it's 10 years out, or it's 9 years out, or whatever it is, right? And that's part and parcel to this thing, that we get these things in the queue. Right now, there's nothing in the queue, and that's a concern.
There's a bit of work that's been done that would make at least one of these very large projects very doable because of what's already been accomplished as far as providing a wastewater system. There's been perk tests done, there's some approvals done, so there's some stuff that's done that we could bring to bear on that, on a large project like that. So we're not exactly without some means that have been, already worked out. So if, like I said, if that's a charge that we take,
Take it.
I've already been looking at a couple things and already looked at some possibilities. Bob, you mentioned to me that we should be doing something with this, and so I started looking. And that's why I have a couple of concepts and I've talked to a couple of people, but I haven't had the forum really to bring any of it forward because we've been busy with some other things, as well as knowing that we had the charge in our hands.
What about, again, we talk about, MBTA lack of service and transportation. We listen to other community activist groups, whether it be the veterans group, whether it be the senior citizens, and the lack of transportation. And we've been talking about this for years too, as far as getting some sort of a commuter site where maybe we can convince the bus to come through. To me, again, that's part of the whole planning process.
Absolutely.
And it's got to be incorporated into it,
And the project that I was envisioning would demand that it would be a place for that to begin to happen. So that's.
On-site.
Yeah, so that's a part of the whole concept. So I can propose it at a meeting, we can start to bring it forward.
The finance committee feels that the funding source for FY15 for the North and Boston Regional Shared Housing Project should not be taken out of free cash in October, but needs to be taken out of general revenue now and put into the budget. Full stop. I realize that in fact, we're paying functionally in FY15 with funds that were voted at October town meeting. However, according to Danielle, there needs to be 6 months' notice if you don't plan on re-upping, which means that it will happen in the middle of FY15. It needs to be in the budget for the spring. And then I have one other question to the chair of the CPC. So what is the story with Bridgestone Tire? I understand what is the-
Firestone Tire has been,
It's Firestone, Bridgestone, they're the
yeah, the same,
yeah.
been totally permitted, and everything's done, we're waiting for them to come in. I don't know, have you seen anything yet?
It hasn't been permitted.
I'm sorry, not permitted with the building. They have their special permit from CPC. I believe they have their orders from Concom. So they're ready. I think they're waiting for the weather to break. I'm not sure.
My understanding was that everything was found on the town side, but that there were any problems at the state level. I don't know.
I don't know.
They're basically ready to go.
Okay.
So from our local development team, they're okay? I mean, if they've come in, they've met?
They met, the site has its permit, we have all the plans.
Yeah.
Mr. DeColo's just waiting for them to pull permits, they can start.
They can start.
Their clock is ticked down for appeals, so it's been that long.
They had a few conservation issues, otherwise they would have been done quicker. That
Right.
basically was the only holdup that they had, because the plan they brought forth, other than some aesthetics that we modified and making sure they adhere to some of the rules that we have, was pretty good right off, so I think they're pretty much all, I know they're pretty much all set to go.
I thought they were trying to start last fall, but, to get ground broken and start, the work before it got really cold, so they could close the building up and finish it, but because of those few issues that they had to clear up, and one of them was at the state level for
Right.
Concom.
DEP.
DEP had some
Right.
issues with it, and they had to redesign the site a little bit. Didn't affect the building, it affected parking and things like that a little bit, and how things were aligned. But then they came back to us, and it was a pretty quick, approval. They were
What are
working.
they doing for septic there?
It's on the other side.
It's on the left-hand side of the building.
The north side?
Yeah.
There's actually going to be a cooperative system that servicing the Gonzalez building and that
Okay.
building.
Yeah.
So they'll take care of both issues at once. Well done.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the housing agreement's a 90-day withdrawal prior notice.
90-day prior notice? They might have changed it.
Paragraph 7.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, if the town of Reading wants to
You're looking-
withdraw because they're the host,
Right.
they need 6 months.
Oh,
Any other
okay.
town needs 90 days. You're
Okay.
right. Sorry.
So that would give us,
So April would still be too. So
Yeah,
still a
it's
concern
gotta
of
be
the finance committee.
Mark.
Ms. Paveo, you have a sense on how this should be done? Should this be part of this budget?
My only concern is if it continues as an operating expense, we shouldn't be funding it with free cash.
But what we have appropriated right now is how many years?
One.
One.
Try for 2. That's what we went to town meeting for.
Try for 2.
So why can't we go in October?
That was our thought, they go in October.
Right.
That's free
Well,
cash.
that-
It ought not be a drain on free cash in October. It's a budget item to be dealt with out of general funds and the.
Well, if all we have to do is give 90 days' notice,
It will fall within the fiscal year.
well, it will call within the fiscal year, but the contract goes to the end of the fiscal
I
year.
understand that.
Right, what's that?
I understand that.
Right,
But
so-
it's an obligation that we've got to.
But then
give
we'll have
notice
June
within the
town meeting
fiscal
to
year.
address it. We'll have June town meeting to address it. If we're going to back out, we'll give them the 90 days' notice before the fiscal year was up. And if we have intentions of
It'll
moving
be on the
forward,
budget next year.
if we-
That's right.
If we have Intentions
But
of
it
moving
would-
forward, we have the upcoming fiscal
It would be,
budget in
it would
June.
have
The
to
funds
be-
don't have to be available 90 days in advance.
Right, it would have to be a requirement to be in June's budget
Right.
and not be pulled,
Right,
Right.
because we will
right?
have.
Because we'll have a contractual requirement to fulfill that, but we'll have a budget, we'll have a town meeting prior to that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, as long as it's due July 1st of 2015, fiscal 16.
Let me just read something.
This was,
You know, otherwise, we're tying up a year's worth of the contract unnecessarily. If, we well, either way.
the reason why it was funded with free cash for FY 14 was because it came up in October town meeting.
Right.
When all of the budgets had been exhausted.
Right.
Right.
So this was-
Well, it was the timing of the proposal too, right.
Right, well, that's what I mean.
The way it's worded under paragraph 4, it's Reading shall issue an invoice by July 1 to each of the municipalities for its membership fee for the upcoming fiscal year. And the membership fee to be paid within 30 days. Red days.
So it's,
So that's fine.
30 days.
then it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further from CPC? Finance Committee?
Marijuana tomorrow?
Yes, 6:30.
Tomorrow or now? What?
If you guys want to come,
Unfortunately, I'll be traveling, but.
Yes, sir.
we'll keep you up to date. If anyone, other the members want to come and sit there and listen. We're going to finish deciding and we'll have we have the first cut ready?
We do?
We have the first cut for the bylaw ready. Take a look at it. All right? So,
Thank you.
and I think you already have that, right, Mike? The first cut, so you can.
Yep. I already forwarded to everybody.
All right. Well, you all have it, the first cut.
I sent it to everyone.
Somewhere in your Dropbox hidden. I'm sure you haven't looked at it recently because you've been
Email
dealing
last
with this. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Code enforcement, ZBA. Mr. DeCola, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Is that a gift for me? Thank you, sir.
Well, if it doesn't warm up, nothing's gonna get done.
That's so true.
Yes, and 12 degrees tomorrow morning. Listening to, you know, the CPC comments and everything, I think the turnaround has already started. Permits are up from 2012 to 2013, 25%. The revenue was up 135,000 in that year from 12 to 13. So it's already turned around. And I think the high school drives this too. The residential end, the tear downs are back. They're buying the properties from 250 to 325,000 and tearing them down and building a new house. So that's the new home permits. They were up almost 20%. There was like 11 more new homes in 2013 to 2012. And I've already done 5 this year. And we're waiting for the warm weather, because that's just gonna take off. The commercial base, there's not a property on 28 that comes on the market that I don't get 5 to 6 calls on immediately as to what they can do. The larger properties, they are doing the wastewater treatment plants. There's gonna be one down at Walmart, Stop and Shop. Their current location, Federal Realty, they're thinking of putting one in, because they can bring in different tenants. You know, they're restricted now. I'm not sure where it would go over there, probably in the back, but,
In the back, really?
yeah, I'm not,
They got room back?
wouldn't be in the front. I mean,
Right along
there is
the-
a septic system in the back, so,
Right along the river?
right along the golf course.
On the tee box of the third or second hole.
Second hole.
So, I mean, the larger properties, so they will come in. You are dealing with difficult owners. I mean, I got a property down next to the post office. There's one tenant in there, Lou's Exhaust. That property is huge, but the owner is very difficult to deal with. And that's why there's no tenants. So, you know, I don't know if the town ends up partnering with them, because that's a huge piece of land. That's one of them in the old salt shed. I don't know if that's one of the ones you were talking about.
We thought that was sold. We thought that was sold a few years back.
The salt shed?
Yeah.
Appears to be-
It went up, I thought it was $110,000 it went for.
I did sell, and I hear it's sold again, or
Well,
I was interested
someone-
in it again.
It was Michael thought that the state still owned it.
I
But
was
I
told
thought
it
it
was
sold
still
for
under
$110,000
DCAMs.
bucks.
But I'm trying to get, no one can give me a verification, so I have to get a meeting with DCAMs to go get this information.
Yeah,
And they're scheduling me for sometime in April.
yeah. So, I mean, so it's there.
Well, if it's sold, then it should be on, we should have it on our records, right?
Should be here, should be able to get that information.
The assessors would have it if it did sell.
Right, I think so.
I know I was getting calls on it,
But
2
I thought
years
it
ago.
went for $110,000. I
Yeah,
think is what it went
so
for.
they might have,
I
the
think
one
two
on
years
Concord
ago.
Street, I don't know what you're gonna do with, but Mr. Balakonis and I have talked about it. I mean, the liens on that is just, it's gotta be up over $1 million now, so I don't know what you're gonna do with that.
Concord Street.
The one that's cleaned up,
Yep,
it's still
yep.
monitoring. God, I shut that down, I threw the tenants out probably, 15 years ago?
Right.
They were using it as a band practice. So I just don't know what's going to happen with that. But Route 28 is coming along. I know sewer's never going to go in, but they will do the treatment plants. Walmart's planning on a huge addition on the ball field side. That's why they're going to do the treatment plant. And that'll open up the rest of that plaza for, other tenants. The old Stop and Shop, they're just,
Buying time.
they don't care. They'll wait it out because they're on that lease,
Right.
that time lease thing. So I hear they're gonna come back with their previous offer again, but we'll find out about that. But other than that, things are picking up. And from what I hear from the contractors, as soon as it gets warm again, it's just gonna take off in April. They're just waiting. I mean, the cold is killing them. So it's good. And like I said, because of the high school, the property values have really gone up. People are just dying to buy in here. So I guess all those predictions were true, and-
Wasn't smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
Just
exactly,
before.
exactly. Budget-wise, my budget's down 1.2%.
Yeah.
That's because of salaries. A couple of salaries were readjusted. We had a couple of people retire, so I'm in good shape on that end. That's about it.
Any questions? Finance Committee?
I noticed on the back of as far as I know, unbudgeted wish list, who has the portable storage documents and.
I can't hear you, Abby. Abby, I can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
On the last page, department building, operating budget, program description, there is a request for iPhones and iPads and a bunch of other stuff. I
Yeah,
don't-
the wish list, yeah.
I don't, and a portable. I like modular.
Yeah.
Modular.
For
So
the
that
file room,
raises-
yeah.
That raises a question. The Finance Committee would very much like to work at developing a cell phone protocol because it seems to be getting out of hand.
Amen.
My understanding is that there was just a new cell phone given over to an employee that's going to cost him approximately $100 a month. We have a request from the Board of Health for 2 cell phones for 2 smartphones for 2 half-time animal officers. We definitely need to develop a policy, and this business of funds being handed out at a department level as opposed to all having one contract with Verizon, so that you don't have somebody getting charged X and a department that's got more cell phones under their wing getting charged Y. So that's something that we would like to work on with the town administrator and the town finance director.
I don't disagree. I think it was raised
Yeah.
a few years back.
Well, what the finance committee would like to do is have a hiatus on any new cell phones pending a look-see if we can get a better deal for the town. I don't know how many of the existing cell phones that say somebody at the DPW or somebody here, somebody there, I don't know if they're under contractual obligation with Verizon and whether Verizon will be able to wrap it all together. I mean, that's one question. But we'd like to have a hiatus on any cell phone requests pending a review and an establishment of policy and a chat with Verizon about a townwide contract.
Just one of the answers with that, government entities do not have to have a so they don't have contracts with Verizon. They can come and go as they please. They can add phones, take them away as they please. So there's no long-term contract like you would have as
Okay.
a
Right.
personal use.
Right, good news.
But just a question on that, do we have employees that have personal contracts that are just getting reimbursed for them?
Yes, we do, and one of the
thought
advantages
so.
of creating a town contract with Verizon is that you would then establish a base fee for a cell phone that could be used if somebody wished to be reimbursed. Right now, it's a crapshoot. You know?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I had proposed a couple of years ago that we just come up with a flat rate that somebody gets $20 a month.
Yeah,
That's it.
I've talked to some other
Across the board.
communities to see what kinds of.
And let them go get their own phone.
policies that They have. And typically, it seems that there's a gatekeeper at a town level. That's the person that gets to order new phones. So you don't have this business of, I don't know.
It's kind of strange, what you said is true. Our contact is Parks and Rec. I can't get a new phone without going through Parks and Rec. I haven't figured that out. But we have 4 phones.
You just don't know who to go to, because there are apparently
Yeah,
places in town that you can go
she's
to
the person in
and
charge, so it has to go through her. I have 4 phones in my department, 3 of them are flip phones, they don't even make them anymore. I have a smartphone.
I have a couple you can have.
I have the only one.
I got one too.
I guess basically what we're saying is that, I know that it's been, that everybody has had a lot on their plates over the last number of years, and that everyone has wanted to move forward and do something about it. We are willing to work with the powers that be to move the ball forward and establish a policy and work with Liz to get a contract with Verizon. But in the meantime, we just sort of have to have a just say no policy as far as new additional cell phones are concerned. And hopefully it won't be that long in coming. We'd like to get it in place before the end of this fiscal year.
Steve, and then Joe?
was first.
Yeah, just in relation to Joe's comment, though, as far as, you can come and go as you please as far as the Verizon contract with government employees. So I don't know why we need a hiatus. If someone needs a phone, and it's determined through the administrator, they need a phone, they need a phone. You know, in the meantime.
I think
the issue is
I know, but
there's
the Finance Committee has a charge and has the ability to investigate anything you want financially. And, you know, please, undertake the task.
Steve, I
with the
think you're
administration.
missing the point in what was said and how it was interpreted. Businesses, like municipalities, can have a contract with a wireless carrier, right, where the rates are established. What was referred to as you don't need a contract, it's got to do with, you know, you could buy a phone and you get a discount on the phone as an individual by signing a 2-year contract or whatever. So they don't have that piece of it, but they can consolidate the rate for minutes into one contract. And, you know, even work out, you know, replenishment of the phones every 3 years or whatever. So those contracts are available from T-Mobile, from AT&T, Verizon. It's just a matter of doing it. I think one of the issues the town has is that we've got these little clusters of, this department's got
Right.
phones from this person, and we're not getting full leverage of you know, the entire town. Now, there, I think police and fire, you know, have chosen a particular vendor because they get the best coverage. You know, there are locations still in this town where there's no cell phone coverage, right, where I live, for example, and that whole area all the way out to Foley Drive. So, you know, I think if anything's to be done, we should contact the resellers of these particular services and, you know, strike the best deal. You know, and if that means going out to bid, it means going out to bid. I don't know if we have to go
Public
out to bid for
safety
that.
had some issues with, public safety did have an issue with, public safety did have an issue with, public safety did have an issue as far as the carrier and what they needed and why. It seemed to have a pretty good rationale for it. But no doubt, it needs to be, the task needs to be undertaken, but I don't think we need a hiatus or a moratorium on issuing phones if someone needs a phone.
No, in fact,
Just until we get this resolved, To me, we need to resolve the issue anyway.
But the problem could come because we have people that are on their own plans that are getting reimbursed, so. if someone
Well,
needs-
you change that policy.
Well, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
That they want to.
It's been treated very inconsistently in the budget submission.
Right.
Right.
That's why I think Mrs. Herbert's request is a valid.
And I think that lends to their reasoning why is that they want a hiatus, instead of just telling someone, go get a phone and we'll reimburse you. Now, that person's locked into a 2-year contract on that phone, or what have you, if they do an individual plan or a family plan. So that's the problem, that if you don't put the hiatus on right now, that's what you could end up with.
Obviously, most of the people that are requesting the cell phones have something that they're using. Okay, we're not saying, I mean, it's not an issue of telling a town employee that needs to be able to be in communication with the mothership or whatever, that you can't have a cell phone. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that I don't know that there are that many people in town that don't have cell phones now that need one, and if we could just sort of, use what you've got, and if you're using your personal cell phone and getting reimbursed, and, fine, continue with that. Could we just, until we have a chance to develop a policy and get a contract, a townwide contract, it would be a good idea not to.
I mean, a good start would be, I don't think anyone here can answer the question of, one, how many phones?
Right.
At one point
Which
in time, we had-
carriers?
yeah, right. Started to
The
get-
contracts?
What
How many
kind of
people
phones?
were paying for use of their phones? If we
Right.
could get that all consolidated, then you could give that to each one of these vendors, and they'll come back with a proposal.
And part of it too, Bob, you know better than anybody, technology is such, it may not be the phone that people really need. A tablet is really what they need, a tablet or an iPad, rather than the phone. I mean, the phone is ancillary now. It's the research, it's being able to pull up the maps, it's being able to Google, the locations.
Right.
I mean, that's what you need, and when you're doing it on your little phone, or as opposed to this, and this is $10 more a month, to add one of these devices, that may be the route to go and what to invest in,
I guess.
Because I think that's what the use really is, for searching the internet and Googling.
I want the watch.
You want the watch,
watch
yeah.
from
I guess, I can go back to our finance director and ask her this one question. From the financial reports, is it possible to come up with an inventory of what we,
I've already compiled that.
you have?
Mhm.
Mr. Fode, great.
Part of the issue is not only reevaluating who needs a phone, who doesn't, it's reevaluating the plans. I mean, if these plans have been in existence for 5, 6, 7 years, I mean, we did ours probably 2 years ago. I ended up saving money, more minutes, and half of our existing phones became iPhones. So it's just, the plan provider is not gonna contact you to try and help you save money. They're gonna, so you gotta approach them. The other thing off of phones is, just talking about iPads for this department. If I had to advocate for anything, it would be for this department, because I've seen what it's capable of doing over the last couple of years that we've.
I have one, I use my
And
personal one.
It's just.
'cause I can't live without
It's
one.
unbelievable. I mean, they have so much stuff that they have to deal with on the road, that it saves them so much time having to come back here and do other things. I mean, you can, once everything's scanned and put into your system, you can start looking at records from, from 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
if I had to advocate for a start any place, this is where it would be.
It's not a new budget.
It's on the wish list.
It's on his wish list.
On the wish list.
I would've put it in the budget if I were him.
I don't have any capital in there. The phones, we have Verizon, we have 4 phones. It's basically $44 a month for each phone. That's a set fee. I think we have 400 minutes. If anybody goes over the minutes, they have to cut a check for the town for the overage, and we put that into the general fund. So, I mean, that's how, and like I said, 3 of them are the flip phones. And I'm the only one who has text messaging. because it just takes too long to text on the flip phone. They're not gonna do it, so.
I mean, I would suggest to you that $44 a month for a flip phone with no texting and limited messages is an extraordinarily high rate.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like you said, it's probably 12 years old.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just
Need to really go plans.
the same, so.
Well, welcome to the Finance Committee to take on the task of developing a policy.
To look at it.
I think it makes sense.
I think that there's some things like this, the housekeeping issues that everybody's been really busy and so no one's had a real chance to tackle it. That wouldn't be a bad idea to start on something like this.
Why didn't you put iPads in?
Why did I put that?
Why did you not?
Oh, I just didn't put capital in, it was just it was a level funded, so.
I don't think it needs to be, it won't make capital.
No, it's not a capital item.
It's not, wouldn't be a capital item, so put it.
It would go in the IT budget, though.
Oh, but he would have,
He
but I'm
would
saying he
have
would have.
I would've put it in.
Right, he would have asked for them.
I can do that.
Jonathan?
Well, you've got about 45 minutes.
Minutes.
The IT comes in.
My understanding is that we don't have a cell phone tower in this town, and we don't have a building being used as a cell phone tower. So
We've
that
got,
was-
we've
Lots
got
of them. Oh, yeah.
Plenty of towers.
There's plenty of
we
spots.
have
We
many
get lots of
locations.
rent for it.
Many of them.
Many
So how
locations,
is
but
it, how
there's
is it
still,
then that we still have spots?
Trees are growing.
It's like any place else. You're
So
gonna
we-
have, you're gonna
we
have
do-
dead
okay,
areas,
we
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
they have dead
Terrain.
areas.
Yeah, it's just the way,
They have a big one.
The reason why I'm just
the
wondering
layout
is
of the
that
town.
Northeast
if there
Central
were
town.
more towers, and we would let cell phone companies know we were amenable to putting in more towers, especially because of the increase in population, then the town would have more ability, not just go with Verizon, which traditionally is the most expensive carrier. We might, could go with AT&T, T-Mobile, they would know that they have competition, and I'm assuming that a lot of
I
residents.
think all those carriers are in town, Mr.
I think
Valley, how they?
That's right.
Has done a great job at selling every tall tree and spire.
Okay, so I wasn't aware of that, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so
there's
it's
plenty of
only-
towers, but the northeast section of town needs a couple.
Trees.
I've issued 3 permits for cell phone companies. They're coming in and they're redoing all the antennas. With the new technology, will that help?
Put one on his
T-Mobile,
roof.
AT&T.
I solved my
Verizon.
Yeah, you
problem.
did.
If this is the case, then if we eventually do have enough coverage, then couldn't we then say, then wouldn't even public safety then be okay with the coverage from AT&T?
That's up to public safety.
What's that?
That's up to public safety. You
Yeah,
don't
but
wanna
right now,
have them not be able to.
Who they want to use.
Right now, they're very particular because of the coverage.
And that's a small piece of.
No, but you're right. In fact, their issue is getting the best coverage throughout most of the town.
Right.
And if there's 100% coverage from each of the carriers, and over time, these carriers have added antennas to various locations in town. So it's gotten better. There's still some more.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get Verizon.
I know that when T-Mobile put the tower up on Swan Pond, when they did that, T-Mobile can be reached in my house now, but it's the only carrier. Verizon and AT&T.
T-Mobile works in one too, as well as AT&T, but not Verizon.
So I want to know what the Building and Inspection Services Department's going to do about this.
Geez,
Issue the
I have a
permits,
tower
get
across the
permits
pond,
every-
so
sell
I get
care
quick
every time.
service.
Yeah, right.
I'm looking at the tower, so I don't have that problem.
Yeah, you got right across the pond.
Yeah, exactly. But the technology's changing. Each permit comes in, they're redoing 6 antennas, so,
I guess I would recommend that the building department would make use of iPads and become more efficient. That would make sense to make that request to IT.
I will do that.
And get it in this year's budget.
okay.
Anything else, Mr. DeColo?
Just a question on the increase in the travel allowance of $1,200.
The inspectors.
Inspectors, yeah.
Yeah, the inspectors get $250 a month for their vehicles. I upped that to $275.
Okay, so they're not getting the mileage rate, 59 cents?
No, that's for their car insurance, repairs, and fuel. Which really doesn't cover it, but I try to get that up a little each year.
Oh, that's one inspector's full time.
What was the question?
You said you wanted to purchase iPads for all inspectors purposes for.
Yeah, the electrical, the The plumbing, my assistant and myself.
So are they all full-time?
The 3 inspectors are part-time, I'm the only full-time.
What's part-time?
20 and a half hours a week.
Is there any chance they can share an iPad for inspection?
They're probably working with similar schedules.
Yeah.
They may be part-time, but they may be all be working at the same
They
time.
do, yeah. I don't know, I wouldn't give my iPad to anybody.
Well,
What do you have on it?
Yeah. I just can't live without it.
No, I know.
you'll learn.
Great tool.
Yeah.
Mr. Ticola, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board of Health, Mr. Fear? Young lady didn't want to join you.
No, she wants to stay back. That's Pam Bath, one of our Board of Health members.
How are you?
Well, thank you for having us here. As you know, the Board of Health's mission is to prevent disease and promote and protect the public health. And we do this day to day through many routine things like keeping sewerage separated from groundwater. You know, and by the way, you were talking about treatment plants, and I mean, the technology is there and it's being used today to treat sewerage, to basically drinking water. The only problem is disposing of that drinking water. You need a couple of things, and that's soil with adequate saturated hydraulic conductivity to make the water go away and not come out onto the ground. And the other thing is that controls it a lot is the elevation of the groundwater. You still need adequate separation between the sewage and groundwater for the filtration that you get from that separation. So that's basically the problem. We're also protecting the...
You have a question?
Could you just speak a little louder? It would be very helpful.
I'll try.
Okay.
So we're involved in protecting the food supply and assuring proper sanitation in food establishments, assuring that there's adequate and safe housing. We investigate and control communicable diseases, prevent youth access to tobacco. We also prepare and train and exercise for public health emergencies. And we're also trying to prevent humans from contracting rabies, mosquito-borne diseases, the flu, things like that. In terms of quantifying these achievements, it's difficult to say how many foodborne illnesses were prevented or cases of contagious disease prevented from spreading. In terms of our budget, we're looking at a 2% overall increase from the current fiscal year. One of the reasons for that is the mosquito control project is seeking a 2% increase in their funding, the East Middlesex Mosquito Control Project, and that amounts to $932. The rest of the requests for increased resources arise under the animal control section of the budget, and of course one of the things is cell phones that you already discussed. And the number that I plugged in is just a number that seems to be a common number that's used. My phone is provided by our emergency preparedness district, and our carrier is Verizon, and we go through a government representative, and it's a group plan for everyone in the coalition. So I'm open to whatever.
Do they pay for your phone? You're saying that's where the phone is provided?
They
actually
supply
pay for
it.
your phone.
Yeah, they supply it and pay for it. The animal control officers use their own cell phones. They don't have an office phone, and the animal control number at the police station is really an answering service. It's not a real telephone. And they do get calls.
So, can I ask you, so if someone calls that animal on the street, so they call the number, goes to the police department, goes to a recorded line, what is, or?
Yeah, it's not actually a
Just a
telephone,
voicemail?
it's a computerized answering system.
Just goes in,
As I
you
understand.
know,
And then
all they can do is leave a message?
Leave a message, and then they, although people, you know, if they think they have an emergency, they do call police dispatch. And the police will get in touch with the animal control officers. But they, you know, they call in with their cell phones, and then they may have to communicate with people that are making the complaint. They call, maybe they don't reach them, and they get calls back, you know, after hours when they're not in a position to deal with the issue. And I communicate with them largely from day to day through texting and email. So there's no question that they need that.
Mr. Fode?
Mr. Fair, can I ask a quick question? Since we were talking about dead animal, if a call comes in 7 o'clock at night for a dead animal, how does that get? I'm not talking a deer, I'm talking a squirrel or...
Well, one of the animal control officers works from 4 to 7, so she would probably take care of it.
Say 10
before she
o'clock.
left.
All right.
She's sorry.
We say 8:30.
Well, one of them is willing to come back and take calls after hours. The other one has another job, so he's generally not available.
So,
Other than his working
I
hours.
think the finance committee's going to ask a
But
question.
it may wait there because, you know, I don't think the police do handle some emergencies with dogs and things like that if they're unavailable, but I think that animal is just going to stay there until.
Not gonna move?
No, I think it's going to stay there till 9 o'clock the next morning.
Either one. Mr. Keller, Mr.
Unattended phone at the police department.
Right.
How do they find out that there's a call flow? Do they call in periodically? Or?
Yes, they do. They call in on their personal cell phones.
Yeah, so they call and check messages every once in a while? Or?
Yes.
We have a call service at my company. And what it does is, because we're dealing with businesses whose computers may be down at a given time, and in the middle of the night when they get a call, the call company broadcasts email to our entire team. So, I mean, there may be some changes that could be made to what they're doing to become more effective in terms of getting, so that the current animal officers don't necessarily have to keep calling. They can just check their email every once in a while. Things like that, just as a suggestion going forward.
Yes.
Mrs. Herbert?
I understand that you have 2.6 animal officers, one of whom works from 9 to 12 and the other works from 4 to 7.
Yes,
What
and
happens
on the
from
weekday.
12 to 4?
12
The
to
animal
4,
sits and waits.
there's no one for work,
Right,
for
that's
for
right.
animal control. Saturday, one works
Yeah.
all day Saturday.
Yeah, I'm
and
not
the other all
concerned
day
about the
Sunday.
weekends. What happens if there's a coyote that's hit on 62 at 2 PM?
Well, as I've said, one of the animal control officers is around and willing to take calls other than her regular working hours. She also works as a crossing guard, so I'm not sure she could do it at 2 PM, but she could probably get out there at 2:30.
I guess I'm trying to understand, is there a huge number of abused dogs, barking dogs, wiped out animals, or whatever else is on your list?
There is some.
Between 4 and 7, or is that simply the time that person is available? I'm wondering what.
No, it seems to be the time when people are getting home from work and make their calls and complaints.
Are these animal control officers, do they carry a weapon?
No.
So if you have
they
to
don't.
shoot a rabid raccoon, do you call in the police?
Yes.
And why was it that you anticipated the cost for cell phones for 2.6 animal officers would be $2,400?
$1,200 per phone seems to be the number that I've seen. I didn't check that.
What kind of phone would you think that they should get?
They would be like iPhones.
And they need an iPhone because?
Because I communicate with them by email and texting, and they sometimes need to make inquiries with people at the State Department of Public Health or Department of Animal Health under the Department of Agriculture.
So they don't use the Board of Health office at all
They
during
do.
the day?
They do, and they have a reused laptop computer for access to email when they get into the office.
You have a new animal officer vehicle, and since they, neither of them are basically working at the same time, is there any reason why there can't be a phone that stays with the animal officer vehicle that can be used by whichever animal officer is on duty?
I thought of that. Trying to think of why that wouldn't work out, but there were some problems with
We can get hold of it
leaving
between 12 and 4.
one phone in the truck.
We know when to answer the phone
They can't
between
use
12
it.
and 4.
No one answers the phone
No, they
anyway.
do. He says one of the officers is available, off hours.
But,
Okay. There was also another question, I think you had, about the.
I actually, I've got two. Cremation of animals, the $2,000. What are we doing now?
we have a freezer in a shed by the pound at the DPW garage, and when it gets full, the animal control officers load them into a vehicle. This is what they were doing, and taking them to the MSPCA, the Nevins Farm in Methuen, and they would cremate them there, but they're no longer in that business. They're not running their crematorium anymore, so now we have to contract with the Angel View Pet Cemetery. They're out of Plymouth, you might have seen it. And they have a crematorium, and they come with a freezer truck and pick up the animals, and they have some more stringent requirements for the packing of them, skunks in particular. And the cost is more. No,
This is
no,
$2,000.
the other one wasn't as expensive. This is a pickup service, and this is a little more. Plus, they have to be packed in a certain way. In addition to that, we're also
We just double bag
picking
them,
up
Ron.
more dead animals.
Seriously, we just double bag them. A skunk. But no, he's right. I mean, that's exactly the same process we have. We actually pick up, DPW picks up animals. We do the same thing. We have a freezer. We put them in the freezer, and we actually use Angel View also, so.
Other question on the dog officer. We got a new vehicle a year ago, year and a half ago maybe. And in your budget request, you want to make some modifications to it, to put a step roof on it. Wasn't it designed for this purpose originally?
No, it doesn't have, it doesn't have ventilation, the cap that's on the back of the truck, and It's not a four-wheel drive vehicle, it's an F-150 pickup truck, and it's not the best vehicle for animal control officers to use. We had to buy a ramp, like if you have a large dog, you get a large dog into the back of the truck, you need a ramp to get them in there. I think the truck is primarily for transporting firearms and ammunition, to tell you the truth. I think that's why the police got it, and that's what they use it for a couple of times a year.
I don't think it was brand new. Mr. Belliconis,
It's brand new
came out of
truck.
It is a brand new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was some
It's white, it's.
leftover truck that came out of the police department. That's what-
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm wrong.
I haven't seen
No.
this one.
Well, I don't understand why a inappropriate vehicle new would be, why, did you have any choice in it? Were there any specs written or requests? I mean,
No,
how did
I don't know
How does
the
it
animal,
go about?
I don't know how that came about.
Was this
The
before-
animal control's
It
been
was.
in the Board of Health.
This was
since
before it got
July.
trans, animal
was.
control got transferred to you, though.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. But, it's just that on a hot summer,
Yes.
a summer day at Cap without any ventilation, it might be 30
I just was
degrees.
under the impression this was purchased for this purpose, and, just questioning why it wasn't.
I think it's a
Didn't
little,
have that built in.
Todd, I just think it's a little difficult for him to answer, because I think it was purchased before it got transferred.
It
I thought it was
was a
purchased.
factor of what we had, there was enough money to buy.
Yeah, but someone should have given some forethought as to how it should have been equipped before we went out and spent the money, and that's what we could afford, so this is what he gets.
Well, most departments that I know have a van.
Maybe we could trade with John Welsh. Take the van and give him the truck.
You could trade with the seniors.
Good idea.
What? That's me.
What did you say?
They're an extra van.
Strike that from the minutes,
I don't know if
please.
anyone wants to be riding around a dead skunk in a van.
No, I meant, give it to them.
It's a pickup truck, please.
Yeah, there's
Glad you
another
spoke
question
softly on that
about, you have a revolving cap for nurses and for the flu clinic staff. But I noticed that, there's no reduction in the Board of Health budget for nurses. Why are the flu clinic nurses not paid out of the revolving fund?
I hope they are being paid if they work at the flu clinic out of the revolving fund. But it's my understanding that they are. I'll verify that. The clinic supplies are also paid out of the revolving fund.
Can we verify it right here?
And the needle disposal is too. We're also ordered a special freezer for vaccine that we won't be getting.
Perhaps to rephrase Abby's question, if the charges are flowing there, we might expect a reduction in that line item in the department budget.
I think our finance director may have an answer to that question.
The finance committee's question, I believe, because they asked the same question to me, is why the health department's operating budget has not been reduced by the payments that are coming out of the revolving fund
Yep.
for the flu clinics. That's their question.
Right.
So
Okay.
yes, the flu clinics are being paid out of the revolving fund. Their question is.
But we haven't seen a corresponding reduction in the
Correct.
health department budget.
Correct.
As sort of an offset. So what is that adjustment?
Oh, I haven't reduced it, and I haven't monitored to see if we're spending significantly less. I mean, the public health nurse has other functions, such as, we have from 75 to 125 reportable diseases a year that are followed up on by the public health nurse, and epidemiological surveys and sometimes investigations that have to be completed and sent to the state. Public health nurse also is available on Monday afternoons at the Council on Aging to assist people there and have blood pressure clinics. She's involved in emergency preparedness in the medical reserve corps too.
Is that a change from what her duties were before?
No, it's always part of the duty.
I don't understand why the budget has gone down then. some things have come out of the nurses administering the vaccines.
I haven't asked to reduce it, and you're probably right, that $6,500 that is budgeted for public health nursing can probably be reduced by the amount that's spent on the clinics.
Do we know what that, do you have an idea what that figure is?
I don't, but I can find out and report back.
Well, right, without trying to get what that dollar figure is, that's what I'm trying to get at.
I don't have that information, because as Mr. Fair said, there's other health clinics that the public health nurse runs, so I don't know the breakdown of those.
But we do know how much money came out of the revolving fund, right?
Yes, yes.
So you could, am I thinking correctly, you could reduce the budget by that amount?
I could, but I would rather Mr. Fair come up with the,
Yeah.
he knows what is contracted with the public health nurse better than, you know, the amount isn't the same as it was last year as it was this year, so I don't want to.
Well, they added more clinics this year.
Can you do that, Mr. Fair?
Certainly.
Mr. Prisco?
I just had a question on, and I meant to ask Mr. DeCola this as well, is the travel, the $8,100. I know it's stayed pretty steady, but listen, we seem to have a tremendous amount of vehicles around town. Is there a floater vehicle we can leave here where it can maybe be shared between your department and the building department to try to reduce some of these travel costs and to try to reduce some of the wear and tear on your vehicle? I mean, I'm not sure what all the vehicles are around, but I see a tremendous amount of them, so there's some research can be done on that. But the other part too is if we have this animal control vehicle that's not being used for 4 hours a day, maybe it could be parked here and you could use it over that 4 hours to try to offset some of these travel expenses too. If we have a vehicle, it's a town vehicle, and it's not doing anything, it seemed to me it'd be a better, use of that than your own vehicle, and to try to save in the budget.
The downside would be if an animal officer received an emergency phone call about Mr. Dillon's squirrel. 2 p.m.
Yeah, make sure they double wrap this one.
Well, I guess my point is, I don't have a good feeling for how many vehicles we have anymore around town.
I agree, the finance committee is also concerned about that.
So maybe there just needs to be a quick inventory, and if there's some vehicles that are not used at all. I mean, I drive by the police station, fire station, I see a lot of other cars that have been just kind of parked there for a long time. Maybe they can have a floated car that they'll let you use. Try to offset some of these, because when you add up what the building department put in there, and you add up what's in here, it's a pretty significant cost. And then you add that in addition to what we're spending on fuel. I'd like it to be considered.
We're paying, the inspection services, we're told that we're paying them a stipend, and that covers the fuel with X number of dollars a month to say, go do your job. So there's no fuel cost, there's no insurance cost, there's no vehicle maintenance or upkeep. It's just a straight stipend for what is it, he's up at $275 a month. So there aren't any vehicles over there, other than Jim's himself, right? Jim has a vehicle, Jim DeCola.
No.
No.
He's got it in his
Oh,
budget.
he doesn't anymore either?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right,
It's
so
a tremendous, I mean, if we have the vehicles somewhere around town that's not being used, it may be helpful for Mr. Fair to have access to it, to try to reduce some of these costs, including Mr. DeCola too. I'm sure he doesn't want to use his own vehicle.
I think there should be an inventory, how many vehicles we
What
have.
is the reimbursement arrangement that gets us $8,100 a year for travel and fuel?
Just based on the cost of the vehicle and upkeep and
I mean, is there
maintenance,
a set
percentage
amount
of
per
the
month or
town
something?
use. There is, yes.
What is it?
I think it's $675.
Yes. 675.
$675.
So, one quick question, Martin. I see that you have retained $1,200 for your cell phone in your budget. However, your cell phone is paid for by somebody else.
That's right, it has been for
So
a few years.
perhaps you could remove the $1,200 for your cell phone.
Well, I left it in because I'm worried that the state, the federal funding for that program that pays for the cell phone is going to be reduced next year, and it's going to more of a hospital focus on the emergency preparedness. So that may be one of the things that the coalition has to eliminate,
Well,
is paying for
Martin,
telephone.
I would suggest to you that if you're merrily going along your way thinking that this other organization is funding your cell phone, and suddenly it's not, then that would be an unforeseen financial issue, and you could always come to the finance committee if you needed small change to get through the rest of the year with your cell phone. But it's not clear why it's in your budget if it's contractually paid by some other organization.
It's in there because I think it's going to be needed, but if that's the way you want to handle it, that's all right with me.
I think I was looking at something else when this discussion started, but your cell phone that you had said earlier was being paid by emergency preparedness.
Yes.
Do you actually have that in your budget as though it's being paid for out of your department?
Yes.
I think you gotta take it out, or determine whether or not they're actually paying for yours.
They are.
No,
They are.
it's supplied for and paid by the Emergency Preparedness Coalition.
So why do you have a budget?
I'm feeling.
Oh,
I'm
that's what I said. I
feeling
missed something.
confident, yeah, that the funding.
Okay. That's what I missed.
It's gonna be cut out.
Okay.
So the budget.
Makes sense, okay.
So Nabby suggested,
Can I ask a quick
we don't know
question?
for sure, so go for a transfer. Just
Yes.
Whichever way you want to handle it.
I'm amenable to that if you want to
As long
remove
as you
it,
know that
and
when it comes
if you
to it.
tell me that I will,
So then
it'll be.
so can I just, it says here, actual expenditure then for fiscal year 13 was $510. How did you have an expenditure on a phone that was being paid by?
We may have run short in another line item and taken money out of there to pay for another expense.
Mr. Prisco?
No, I do apologize that I didn't catch Mr. DeColi before he left, but I just want to finish on this discussion about the travel. Because in Mr. DeColi's budget, it was, well, let me add it up,
250 to 300.
$14,700 he's asking for in total across his budget for travel. And you're asking for $8,100. So I just think it's worthy if we can, I don't know if Finance Committee has access to how many, do you have an inventory of all our vehicles? Somebody has any, if we have something that's available that we could assign to them, I think that's a better.
I think it's a matter of looking at a vehicle policy, and I think we've all talked about it over the years, and once again, people have been fairly busy. Right? I think it's a matter of developing a policy about who takes a vehicle home and who doesn't, and do we have vehicles at the town yard or someplace that are available, quote unquote. And, you know, this has been something that I think everybody has been supportive of and wanted to see happen, but for whatever reason, there's been an awful lot of other things going on that I think probably took priority. So it is something that's on our horizon.
Okay.
At $675 a month, that's a pretty steep cost.
Yeah, absolutely. One vehicle.
Yeah, and if you look, Mr. DeCola has one vehicle, 10,000 $800 a month. I mean,
No, it's
$10,800 for the year. Divide that out, whatever that is.
In code enforcement. It's all.
No.
One.
$900 a month
Six-
for him.
Yes,
And then he's got a couple other vehicles.
That was institutionalized.
A couple other people
a long time
that he's
ago.
budgeting for them too.
Yeah.
So that's a hefty, that's, you know.
We should probably look at the Ford 150 if there's something else in the capital.
Which is, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We've got a Ford 150 floating around that's not meeting the needs of,
You're talking about sharing the,
not sharing.
Just assigning it to one department.
Taking it away from the health department.
You may not be able to solve all the departments with one vehicle, so maybe you continue.
Finding something more appropriate for health, that's what I'm trying to say. Because why would you put money into a vehicle that's probably never going to meet their needs if there's another department in town that needs that vehicle and has it on their capital list? Just,
And I think kind of goes with what Mr. Kelleher is saying, is how do you come up with the $900 or the $870, whatever it is? Who came up with that number? How was it generated? Is that a state, under the state program?
What, the 675?
675?
Some of these are in the contracts.
No, it's.
Mr. Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's right, it's just some of them are in the contracts. I think that, I guess as a board, we need to decide on a policy that's consistent, apply it across the board.
Okay.
You know, whether that's going back to paying for mileage, whether that's to set up what we talked about some time ago, carpool out here, or whether we just make an adjustment where some of these stipends are in excess of what they should be. But we're not going to solve it here this evening, and I think it's an across-the-board issue.
Right.
And I think you also have to go look into some of the contractual agreements, because I think some of those numbers are spelled out in the contract, in the individual contracts.
That's not contractual.
I don't think it's.
What?
It's not contractual.
It's not contractual. It's not contractual?
Not this issue.
Okay.
Anything further? Finance Committee, board members? Mr. Valley-Cox?
We're gonna get an adjustment budget, is that what we're gonna get over the next week or so? Based on these discussions?
Well, it'll be a...
Primarily,
You
we
want
talked about,
volunteer to do it, right.
we talked about
Otherwise,
the
we're
phone,
gonna-
we talked about money from the revolving fund, reducing
Nurses.
for nurses, and was there anything
The
else?
phone and the revolving fund.
Was there anything else?
That's
Just
it.
those
That's
two?
it. I mean, the travel thing is something
And the phone.
that, so we gotta
That's
figure
gonna
out.
be, yeah, across the board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fair.
All right,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you,
you're
Mark.
welcome,
Very
thank
much.
you.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
All right, moving right along. Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I know.
How are you?
Excellent. Thank you all for hearing me. As you know, the Conservation Commission is in charge of upholding federal, state, and local laws related to protection of particularly the wetlands in North Reading. As I'm sure you know, most of the budget is, our portion of the town budget is quite small relative to the other departments. We are seeking level funding, and the reason we're doing this is because, as you've heard, the economy is picking up around town, and we expect that there will be more people coming before the Conservation Commission in the upcoming year. We've actually already seen an increase in applications and notice of intents for new construction just this year already. So we actually have a packed meeting tomorrow night. So hopefully the Board of Selectmen will approve this level funded budget. And we have no cell phones. We all use although, you know, I just asked them all if they wanted some.
No, I actually was surprised that there wasn't some level of increase, just because of the changes that you're going through and the
Mhm.
increase.
Well, usually, please don't take any money away, usually our budget ends up being a savings account for the town, because we ask for it and you approve it, and we don't, most of it isn't entirely used up, so that's why we didn't ask for an increase.
Thank you.
Finance Committee, Mr. Kelly.
The only comment I have on this, I think, I don't have any issue with the budget. We changed last year and paid the conservation agent out of general funds because there was a mismatch with the revolving account and just getting messy. That's fine, I think it was a good way to go, and we should continue doing that. My only suggestion is that the funds that go into the revolving account ought to be zeroed back out against the general fund at the end of the year.
That makes sense.
Mr. Bear, weigh in on that?
Currently, there's $8,600 in the revolving fund. The problem 2 years ago was we had drained the entire thing and there was nothing
Right.
left,
Right.
so.
We caught it late.
Right.
Right, mid-year it was.
Maybe what would be better, Dawn, is to set a cap on it and transfer out anything above the cap annually.
If there's-
That
if-
way, there's something to fall back on if they end up in a situation where they need to.
If there's a need for it, sure, I don't disagree with that. If there was no need, I'd move it all in, but if there's a need for some amount in there.
Well, we've
then I'd
got this
leave it.
unknown growth cycles picking up, and
Well, the compensation will be paid out of the general fund, though.
Yeah, but there's only 858 hours in there if she needs
Okay.
900 or
professional
1,000.
services
Right.
budget.
Yeah, if there's a
Right.
need to increase the number of hours in order to meet the demand.
Right, you don't want to
Okay.
wait for your income.
If that is something ongoing, I would, going forward, increase the budget.
I especially
Not-
don't
and
want
not
to
have
go
it-
out
not
of.
have
Right,
a-
but we're in this
payments-
cusp period where things are
payment
picking up
bag.
again.
Right.
You know, at least we have a positive balance in the account now. Yeah. but-
We should, because we're not using it.
Right, so it's, but again, if what Mr. DeCola is saying is true, we're gonna see a lot more activity, particularly conservation involved, because.
Yeah, we're running out of dry areas.
We're running out of dry, yeah, we got a lot of islands around.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
Do I get a prize for being the fastest?
Yeah, you get to go home early. You get to go home early.
Get a cell phone.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you get a cell phone.
Next year, we'll take it first.
Awesome, thank
Or
you.
last.
That's,
That's bad.
I know, that's her gift.
Youth Services, come on down. We got an adjustment? What are you bringing us?
Paper?
What's
I hate
this?
paper.
It's in the online copy as well.
I'll make it.
So we
work.
recycle what's in here, replace it with that?
Yes, there's
Thank you.
narrative
Thank you.
as one line item adjustment on the.
How are you?
Sort things
the
out?
budget. Well, you
Very good.
can write it in if you'd like. Oh.
Thank you.
I am happy to know that I'm not the one keeping you between business and a boiled dinner. So I thought tonight what I would do is just talk a little bit about one specific story, and it kind of gives you a little overview of specifically the social services part of my department. In early September last year, I received an application from an 18-year-old girl who wanted to apply to be a mentor. Her name is Nina. After meeting with Nina, I must admit that I had some concerns. She was shy, soft-spoken, seemingly detached, and seemed a little timid when it came to our first initial orientation meeting. I wondered if she was going to be able to connect with a younger child and how she would do modeling organizational skills, but I certainly wanted to give her a shot. About 2 months into the program, I began to see her come out of her shell. She talked more with her peers, and I spent time observing her with her mentee, and was very happy to see that she did in fact connect with him. The following week, the teens started becoming early, and this was not at my request, they just started showing up early. And typically during this time, we talk about other teen programs, volunteer opportunities, and they ask me a lot about college. That's usually the conversation. But one day they started talking about how do they balance work and school. On that day, Nina shared that she was working up to 20 hours a week for a grocery store while being enrolled full-time in North Reading High.
She asked me if I knew of any place that she could look for that would offer her more hours. I discussed with her the pros and cons of working more and balance with her academics, but I was shocked to learn why she wanted to work more. Nina is the mother of a 3-year-old, excuse me. His name is Jacob. She and her current boyfriend had Jacob when she was a freshman in school. Although they all live with Nina's parents and have their emotional support, her family can do little more to help them financially. Nina was working just to pay for Jacob to attend preschool for 3 days a week, while she attended North Reading High for 5 days. The other 2 days were becoming a struggle to find care, and she wanted to work more just to pay for his care. So I invited Nina to my office the next day and asked her to bring Jacob. I knew we could help her and find something better. In my office, I asked her why she didn't ask for help before, and she told me she just didn't know where to go for help and that help was available. In my office, she explained that her current daycare would only offer her a small portion of financial aid because she still lived with her parents. I explained to her that she would qualify for full financial aid if she would enroll Jacob in a licensed full daycare program. In my previous job before North Reading, I was in charge of navigating the state basic supportive slots to help families find quality care and financial assistance, and I knew I could help do the same for Nina and Jacob. Clearly that was her best case scenario, and together we began working on a very, very complicated application for the state aid. I contacted the Burbank Y and they agreed to take Jacob if she could complete her paperwork. Within a week, she completed her required documents and compiled all of her documents, including some things that need to be notarized. She was well on top of that. And we made an appointment to bring Jacob to the Y and see how it went. Before we went, I coached Nina on what types of questions she should ask of any daycare provider. Like, what do I do if he's sick at school? What's your discipline policy? And her most worrisome concern, how will the Y help transition Jacob to his new school? Nina, her boyfriend, and Jacob met me at the Y, and we completed the tour together. Later that day, I received word that she qualified for full financial aid as long as she continued to be enrolled at North Reading High full-time. Jacob was enrolled the following Monday, and I'm happy to say that his transition was smooth. Luckily, they have a high supply of Tonka trunks, so that helped a lot. And he continues to go to school for 5 days. And for those of you who are aware of the benefits of early education, there's nothing better for him than being enrolled 5 days full-time. But our story doesn't end there. To Nina's credit, she wanted to continue to work so that she could begin saving for their future. After another visit to my office, Nina decided that she wanted to pursue her own experience in early ed. She decided to apply to work after school as an assistant in a licensed daycare provider. She completed the application on her own, and we practiced again interview questions that she might get asked. She called me after her interview and confirmed that it went great, and I was so happy to hear that I got a call from the daycare provider asking me for a reference for Nina. She got the job and is now working there after school 5 days a week while being enrolled at North Reading High 5 days a week, while Jacob attends the Y 5 days a week. I'll share this final part of Nina's story with you. When I met Jacob a few months back, it was clear to me that he would benefit from speech therapy. Again, not knowing where to go for help, Jacob was never offered an evaluation for early intervention. Now at age 3.5, he's no longer qualified for those state services. I encouraged Nina to seek out more services for Jacob, and just this past weekend she contacted me for information on what to do to get a speech eval for Jacob. In partnering with the North Reading Public Schools, Nina is now pursuing a full evaluation for her son. Nina's story won't end there, I'm sure. We text all the time, and she sends me updates and asks really thoughtful questions. I think back now to how she's changed her life since last September and how her drive will ultimately benefit Jacob. Oftentimes I get asked about specific services or referrals that can be made through my office, mental health, substance use, domestic violence, and others. But it has been my experience that when people call my office and they're in need of multiple services, and it's my job to make those connections. With Nina, we ended up providing her 5 services to her and her family. I appreciate your time and consideration of our budget, and I will say that my cell phone, I use my cell phone, and a portion of it is reimbursed, and that is the main mode that the teenagers, of course, communicate with me. They text me all the time, all weekend. They're up really late at night. And so that is what I use my cell phone for, so I wanted you to be aware of that. And I also use my cell, right now I manage 5 emails for my job and 5 Facebook groups for my job. So that's all done through my smartphone, most of the time.
Well done.
So you can use an iPad.
Actually, I keep hearing they're crashing a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
All I can say is she's an amazing woman. I don't know how she gets it all done.
Thank you.
And in her spare time, she swims with sharks.
I do. Which actually today our youth group,
Which
middle
you
school
took
youth group was a
time
presentation on my shark
to make a
diet.
presentation to the Friends of the Council on Aging just last week. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
I need to sing her praises also. My daughter, who played basketball for 13 years, decided she didn't want to try out for high school basketball, so we told her she had to do something, and I told her what you do on there with the mentoring program, and she jumped on it, and she's loved every minute of it.
She's doing great.
Thank you, but
She is. She's doing great.
credit to you. I can't say
That's
enough
Marissa.
about it.
She's doing great.
She loves it.
Good,
Thank you
I'm
so
glad to
much.
hear that.
I appreciate it.
I will add too that oftentimes parents can't afford our additional services, the more recreational sort of stuff. And during the school year, most of the programs are kept $15 or under, and we do offer financial aid through a revolving account, and no families turned away if they can't pay.
That's great.
Most of our programs are free, and I will tell you that blew me away. We are now enrolling our shorter version mentoring program, and I went from 7 in September. I have 16, and I'm actually going to be short on mentors. So
Really?
we're going to outgrow that building. So if you want to throw in a line item for a new building for us, I won't turn you away. But most of our participants are boys. It's very swayed. We just had our first session of our Early Act meeting, which is a program about community service for grades 3 to 5. We had 15 kids showed up, 10 of them were boys. And to give you a comparison, the middle school Early Act is all girls. So that's really
The
interesting.
mentors are mostly
boys.
Boys.
hmm It's a little bit closer in the mentoring program, but the last, I think I just had 6 more signups in the past 2 days. I think it was 4 boys and 2 girls.
Wow, that's great. You do a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thanks. Do I get a new prize for quick? No? Okay, that's quick.
We just said you did a
Thank
wonderful
you.
job. What else you
Oh,
want?
thank you. That's good enough.
You get to go second next year.
Information technology. Dean, how are you?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for considering our budget request here. I hope what you'll agree at the end of this, that what may not have style will have substance. I don't have a presentation or anything, but I'll just open this by saying the technology department is it's in good shape, but we're in a period of really tremendous growth. A lot of applications coming online, new equipment being replaced, and with the assistance of a really sterling assistant that I have, it's really turning out really well. We're on course. We have a computer replacement program we're doing. And this year, it was our efforts looking from an overview, to high overview, efforts were largely in the server virtualization, getting that rolling. We have 10 servers that are virtualized now. And we have 4 that are aging out. A year from now, or at least in the middle of 2015, they will have aged out and have no more support, and they'll be brought into the virtual space. So, in addition to that, we upgraded all the PCs from our Office application software, which was Office 2003. It's all upgraded to 2010 now, and so we're on course to move along with our hardware replacements. We have a new data center thanks to facilities, and we welcome that. We have some new equipment in there, new UPSs, and we also have a workspace that helps us a lot, and we're thankful for that. We, as you know, technology's role here is primarily to support the departments and the town's data infrastructure. We will be supporting when we enable our web servers. We'll have public-facing web servers to provide service to the citizens also. So we will be providing that service also. That, I think, will be coming up later on this year. The help desk system we have is, works quite well. We have, everyone uses it now, and at least we keep track of it, and we respond, I think, faster, although not perfect, but that seems to be working quite well. Next year, we have a rollout of our Exchange server, which is due April 7th of this year, in a few weeks. And everyone's going to have most people, it'll be transparent. I think those that have smartphones, tablets, iPads may have some reworking of their settings to get that to working. So, but that's on track. That's a major, that'll be a milestone. And continuing on with the computer replacement program, we, as you probably know, Microsoft's no longer supporting, at least in the, will no longer be providing security updates after April 8th of this year. In about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And we will have some that will be later than that, but we still have to upgrade. That was part of our program. And that's kind of a high-level overview. With the budget, there are some changes in that the purchase of services, 5,200 category. There were some reallocation of the expenses. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them as I can.
In the services, the big jump is related to the additional munis applications, right there.
Most of it is, yes, yeah.
Yeah, from 107,000 to, 107,000, 142,000. Am I correct in that?
No, there was a zero in professional services to 48.3, and then there was a reduction from the 142 to the 115. Is that an offset?
That's right. The 48.3 was more appropriately, should be in professional services. There was zero, so that was added. And the remainder was 111,453. The difference is actually 17,000.
17,000?
And 17,000.
So you're taking some of the cost of point off?
No, so Gene can explain the breakdown in professional services data processing. What we did was, before, professional service data processing was comprised of the professional services of the 2 consultants that we hire. So that was backed out and put into just professional services. That's the 48.3. The 48.3 plus the 111, equals last year's prices of the 142 that was in FY14. The increase for FY15 in professional services data processing is due to the new munis applications that have come online within this fiscal year, as well as 2 or 3 other items that Jean can tell you about.
And we're carrying then the service contract with point through the end of next year.
Correct, so.
And then that goes away.
Yes. Yep. 1 more fiscal year of point, and that's it.
And that's part of the 111?
Yes.
That's it.
Point is where our bills are generated now, and that'll go to munis, but they have to carry this overlap for support and the data transfer when you're ready to do it.
Yes.
It's about 13,000 now. It's 12,992.70.
Also in professional services data processing is $6,000 for an application called Commonwealth Connect. Other communities have it. It's Click Fix It or
Click Fix.
Yeah, Click Fix. And
We moving forward with that?
it's in his budget. It has not been pulled out as of yet. I know the finance committee would like that pulled out, but for the presentation to you guys as submitted, it was submitted as part of the budget. There is one item that Gene forgot to add to his budget, and he can explain that. It has to do with the virtual environment.
Our virtualized environment consists of support for each server that's on it and each application, but there's support for the underlying engine that runs the whole servers. And we had, typically when we buy it, we get 3 years of support, and we had 1 year. So I didn't budget for it. And so ours is expiring. We need to, it's the underlying, it's support for upgrade and also maintenance for that software. And I got a quote just last week, and it comes out to $5,811, which kind of, it pretty well offsets the Commonwealth Connect amount that we had in it. But I'd like to change that if we could, because this one is really important. It's at the core of our virtual environment, and it was an oversight. I'm sorry.
What was the amount?
The original budget item for the Commonwealth Connect was $6,000. The quote I got was for $5,811 for.
This is for
So you
VMware
just-
support?
VMware
So
support.
the goal is to not do
Connect. No.
the Commonwealth Connect and use it for.
Yes, for the.
Or add the additional money to the budget?
Yeah. Can I ask a quick question about what the plan was with C-Click Fix or Commonwealth Connect, whatever you call it? Who's gonna be the administrator of that? Do we know? Right?
Administration.
You would?
No, administration is going to be the administrator.
But each department head would be responsible for responding to it?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, Joe.
When I had the discussion with Greg, I think it may have been by email, my concern was with the program that it's only successful if you're responsive to those that take the time to report things. And what I didn't know at the time, and Greg explained it to me, was that you can put a filter on it. So in other words, you can start the program by saying you can only report potholes. I'm just using it as an example,
Oh, yeah, you can
of
do-
course, yeah. So you can in fact design it and assign the specific departments to deal with whatever you put in the filter associated with providing response. So there is some value to it.
Oh, there's a lot of value to it. The problem is it's only as good as the people who
Well,
are
that was
using
my
it.
concern,
Right.
the concern I had raised. Are we prepared to deal with it from that point of view?
I think it's a valuable tool, but again, it's to the point where you have to have someone who goes in there and looks at it, depending on which department you know, if you're gonna do potholes or you're gonna do, public safety issues, something like that, does that department have someone who's looking at that stuff, at least once a day? I will say this about it, though, it does kinda, and it's gonna, maybe terminology, it kinda guilts you into it, because it gives you statistics every couple of months, and it tells you where your town or city is in comparison to other communities. So typically what you'll do is you'll get it, you'll acknowledge that you've received it, and what the plan is to rectify the problem, or if in fact there is one, and then and then when it's finally resolved, that you report back to that person that it's been resolved. So it can be a valuable tool if it's used properly. It just takes a little while to get used to. So
I guess at this point, seeing that we're having a change in administration, we'll have a new town administrator. Clearly, and I know how tight the budget is, that the service contract on the VMware is very important.
Yeah.
And I'm not against this other program, but I think that because we're changing administrators, it ought to be that individual's responsibility to make the determination and proposal back to the board of whether or not to proceed with it, one, and two, how it's gonna be implemented. So without the commitment of resources to deal with it, it's wasted money, and not only that, you're
Yeah, it's more
aggravating
headaches.
citizens.
Oh, yeah.
Because now they've taken time to report something and nothing's getting done. And if it's for potholes, just think about the deluge
Not
of
this
complaints
year.
after
Well,
this.
community's a pothole.
After this
You wanna see how
winter.
many? It's all a pothole. Can't help it.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with putting Powell Connect on hold. Putting those funds towards the service contract. Money better well spent, I think, at this point.
The only other question I had was in regards to the building iPads. Is that something that you would like in his operating budget? Are we going to do that this year, or would we increase the computer replacement
Well,
plan?
first of all, how many are involved, and does it fit within the computer capital allocation that's in the budget?
There would be
Small
four iPads being requested.
Yeah, so it's
3,000.
But it's the monthly,
between 15 and.
the monthly cost, I think, is the bigger issue.
They don't have to have, they don't have to be wireless. I mean, they can just be,
Wi-Fi.
it can just be
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
They'd be out in the field.
They're on the
Oh, yeah,
street
they need it out in the
someplace.
field.
Yeah, they out in the field, that's how he's gonna pull up
Otherwise,
his
you'd defeat the
records.
whole thing, yeah.
So there's also a monthly expense, not that it's a lot, but.
All right. All four of them?
Yeah. Yeah, if they're doing, if they're all doing inspections, then they're gonna need access to all the information.
So you're talking, $750 plus $30 a month, $25, $30 a month
For each one.
for each one. And that's for enough data that I've never exceeded, it come even close to exceeding it. Because most of the time you're connected to Wi-Fi anyway.
Right.
Right.
Probably not in this town, unless you.
What?
Probably not in this town, unless you're sucking it off of your house.
Stealing
Stealing it or something.
No, I'm talking about connect to hotspots, you're in the building here.
Right.
So it's when you're in the field, and, I'm in the field all day, and I never exceed $30. I don't even come close, so sometimes, but I'm over that, they've priced it beautifully, right?
Yeah.
I'm just over that lower cost.
So she's looking for an answer.
So do
Yes.
we add it to his operating budget, or do we increase the computer replacement plan?
I guess I would, well, one is, I would put it in the computer replacement plan, and two is, take a look at that number, see if you can squeeze it in without making a change, and if not, then come back.
But at least
I don't know
minimally,
how you've allocated that, what?
but minimally you'd have to put the monthly charges into it. but-
His operating,
Right.
his operating budget
Right.
would take the monthly charges, correct?
I'm talking about the cost of the iPad.
It's about 3 computers that would be taken out.
Yeah. Well, if you think that's, I know it's tough because of
I'm not looking
those
to shortchange
XP
anybody
issues.
to.
Maybe we'd add it to the budget.
Yeah, I would add it.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking to shortchange anybody else for
Right.
the replacement of the computers.
No, in fact, the replacement of the computers we got this XP issue, and it isn't really worth updating them to Windows 7. It makes little sense based on the age of
Ice cream?
That's fine. You're gonna add that to the capital?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great for building them up. They have those.
John, you didn't mark it that high anyway.
Huh?
You only gave it a 1 anyway.
Look.
No, I didn't. I'm only kidding.
Any questions?
So I just, heads up to the board, when you're making the change to exchange, that we're gonna have to get the information, get our email set up. Keep in mind that at this point then, the email is gonna be archive per requirements, which right now, you know, on some devices, it's not necessarily archived.
It's our belief that we will be complying with the email retention regulations.
That's a good thing.
And we will have reliable and robust service as.
I can't stand our email service.
It's awful.
It's just absolutely terrible. Still can't get it to work, no matter where I use it. It's awful.
Thank you.
I'm a short timer, so.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Nope, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. John.
Thanks for your work.
You bet.
All right.
Yeah.
Fuel budget.
Did we cover that? Did we cover this already?
We did.
No.
We
No,
did.
discussed
Well, we
it.
discussed it.
Last
time.
John, did you get all the capital stuff, rankings in?
The rating, yeah, they're up them up for me. Pardon?
Oh, you sent them on? Did you get my change? Thank you.
Mr. Prisco?
No, Mr. Belconis was gonna go back and verify why the increase from 2012 to 2013 went up over 3,300 gallons.
Right, and what I've indicated before is the use is correlational to the amount of storm events that we have. And there's data that we've provided with the board that indicates as there's severity in storm events, particularly snow events, it results in additional diesel fuel usage and gasoline usage throughout the course of the year.
Is that not charged to snow
Nope,
and ice?
nope.
So when we're running our vehicles and plowing snow, the fuel cost is absorbed in the budget and it's outside of snow and ice?
That's right.
And do we pay for the contractor's fuel too?
No. The fuel was for the purposes of town vehicles.
Only?
That's right.
Well, you know, Greg, we have 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. And over those years, I know one of them was a real low year in snow, right? If you go back and you look at it all, even when we had that low year of snow, we still burned pretty consistent number of gallons from, you know, year to year to year. So 2012 was a pretty busy year, snow, I thought. So it just doesn't, to me, I just don't think there's something not right. 3,300 gallons, it wasn't that bad. I don't think, this year is pretty bad since the beginning of January. But this doesn't include any of that fuel.
Just hand this up.
3,300 gallons, to me, is just hard to justify it with snow. When you look at this spreadsheet, and there's other years that have been straight snow.
Yeah, one each. Two sides?
Yep.
Steve, is yours two sides?
Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
So this is a chart that we've put together. If you turn over the section that's got DPW diesel gallons used, what we've attempted to do here is correlate the amount of snowfall in inches with the amount of diesel gasoline that we use throughout the year. And if you look at the high, which was fiscal year 2013, you'll see that there was a total of 76 inches and 17,962 gallons were used. And also another high would be 92 inches in 2011, which is almost 17,000 gallons of fuel, 16,938. If you look at the low side, 18 inches, 2012, and that's 14,061. The other low year would be 2007, 33 inches correlated to 15,216. So again, the effort that we've put forth here is to show you that as snowfall increases and decreases, or storm events, severity of storm events increases and decreases, it's not just the fact that it's the total number of snowstorms, it's the total of what we consider to be severe events. That results in a correlation in the amount of gasoline that's being used. But as Mr. Misery hit on a good point. In the past, we haven't pushed these costs into the snow and ice budget, but they rightfully could be there going forward. And that would ultimately reduce the amount that's expended for the town's fuel account. You can also see, if you look at the diesel, the amount that we have estimated for both gasoline and diesel costs going back to 2006 through 2013. And you can see the substantial increase in cost that the town has seen over that period of time. So, again, the budget request is $207,000. It'll certainly be respectful of the board if it wishes to come back and reduce that number. We understand that the board is concerned about energy conservation, and administration, along with the departments, will do what we can to live within the budget that's approved by the board.
Greg, I understand the numbers, but what's this chart supposed to be telling me?
What it's trying to do is it's trying to show you the axis on the left side is the gallons that are used. And the first one that says, if you turn to the one that's circled, says diesel. That chart correlates with diesel fuel usage. And if you look at the number of inches that we've got, the axis on the left is the gallons that are used.
Okay, got it.
And then the dots represent the total amount of snowfall received. And what we're trying to do is correlate the amount of snowfall to the amount of gallons that we
Okay,
use.
so the bottom scale is inches, that's
Right.
what I was missing.
Right, and then on the other side is gasoline. And again, we're trying to correlate gasoline usage with the amount of inches that we receive. It doesn't quite track quite as extensively as diesel does, but again, we'll be respectful of the budget that's approved by the board and manage it within the constraints that you establish.
So if I look at this, the way I would look at this chart then, okay, and just realizing that, you know, it bounces around a little bit. If we had no snow, we'd be burning about 13,000 gallons of diesel fuel annually.
I think that's a fair estimate, Bob.
Right. So with respect to what Michael's been talking about, a program to do a better job improving mileage, using less fuel for whatever, associated with just a normal operation, right, would be maybe where we want to aim, because the snow, there's not much we can do about it. It's there, and, you know, the range is from 13,000 to 18,000. So, you know, if it's really heavy, we're going to burn an additional 5,000 gallons of diesel fuel, and if we burn zero, which never happens, it'd be nice if it did, we would be using that amount of fuel. But the rest of it, we may have a little more control over, and maybe it's worthwhile looking at how we get to 13,000 gallons of fuel. What are the drivers, and if there's anything that can be done, how to go about doing it. Vehicle efficiency has gone up, maybe not so much in the heavy truck area, but it has gone up, and maybe we can find some ways of making improvements. The police cars are getting better mileage, gasoline-wise. The police chief has reported that. We talked at one time about some hybrid vehicles for some of the other applications that don't require necessarily the ruggedness of some of the other vehicles. It won't be long when most of the vehicles will be hybrids anyway. But, you know, maybe we ought to look at, you know, below the snow line and see if there are some things we can do, both in the way we migrate our fleet as we're replacing it, and also if there are some things that we can do. A lot of vehicles today shut off when they're stopped. Start automatically, you go. It's easier with a hybrid, but I have a gasoline car that does that.
Greg, quick question. So if I'm looking at that, just the DPW gas in gallons, and you're attributing it to snow, that's the total what they've used for the year, not just off the snow, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Total. But I think Bob again raised a good point, is 13,000 gallons represents the baseline
Right.
without snow, and that's an accurate assessment. Similar to the gasoline baseline is just slightly over 12,000 gallons a year.
Finance Committee? Any questions from you? Richard?
Question. So if you look at snow events versus accumulations,
Yeah.
this year it struck me, we had a number of storms. There were 6 inches of, but not a lot, as we had in other years, but we had 1 inch of storms.
That's why there's variations here.
So I wonder if there was did you actually look at snow events that you had to go out?
You gotta go out and pre-treat the roads even before you know how much snow you're gonna get.
Oh, what I meant was that when you pre-treat the roads or you go out when you know there's a storm, you're going out for every storm. But if you're looking at just total snowfall, you could have 2 big storms that are gonna equal 6 events. We were getting 2 storms a week, for the last month.
You're right, because frozen rain in the streets, you have to hit every single street at least once anyway, so you may have gotten more of those for a period of time.
Given that
And it still requires you to go out into the whole town as opposed to, you're right, so events is a.
No, it doesn't. No, this tracks. This tracks, so deal with this. Right, deal with that.
Anything further on fuel?
Nope. Good.
Jonas, thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, item 8, seasonal license renewals.
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest that we take up the housing thing? I think Mr. Hayden's hanging around.
Oh,
for
I'm
that.
sorry.
I'm just hanging around.
The whole
I
thing?
lost track of you.
Well, I might leave after that came up.
That's what
All
I'm
right.
saying.
We'll do that last. No. We're on item 10, sign the intermunicipal housing agreement.
Of the what? Oh, yeah, the schedule.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the intermunicipal housing agreement for the North of Boston Regional Shared Housing Project.
I'm okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Second. I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? We all still feel this is worthwhile?
Yes, I do. Worth a try.
From what Danielle told me, she didn't, I don't think you mentioned it earlier.
She and a couple other people in Town Hall have been going through, trying to consolidate some of the 40B information, and they've already found 3 or 4 or 5 cases that there's issues with. So and I know she hasn't had time to go through all of them yet, so that's what this should help get all that information together, get it all in one place, and get it straightened out. So, and that could save us from losing, 40B affordable housing in town. For losing
Existing credits, right.
losing not just credits, but just losing the unit.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because we could lose the unit if we're not controlling it properly. Someone doesn't put it back up, if we don't know it's supposed to go for bid and it goes back out as in general market. You lose the unit. You might be able to go back and get it, but
So there isn't a deed restriction on these?
there is. It should be caught, yes. But, You know, but there are other things that we have that I'm not sure how they're all, if there's deed restrictions on them or what there are.
It was supposed to be.
They're supposed to be on,
Right.
yes, but,
Who's watching?
but there is still stuff that we're not doing properly that we could lose at least the count for it. You know, and we don't want to lose any count. We can't lose one unit to count, because, we're already below because of the new census. So, but what I'm saying is that there is evidence, they've already found evidence in a small, as much as they've done so far, that this is actually going to help us.
Sorry?
The planning commission, the planning administrator.
I didn't hear the question.
North Reading.
I didn't hear
Yes.
the question. I didn't hear your question.
Who had done what so far?
Found, so it looks like there's a benefit, and I wanted to know who they were.
Right, okay.
I didn't think that this North, I thought we did, so anyway.
They have.
Made sure it was Danielle and,
It was Danielle and some folks down in taxes, I guess. The assessor's office, I'm not sure. She rattled off some names to me, like, I'm terrible on remembering names.
So if we told Reading that's what we like to see to get out of this, like, year one,
I think
can we
that's.
give that direction? Is that?
I don't think we can give them that direction, but I think we're gonna find, I think they're gonna find us all those properties right away. Know where everything is.
Well, I would hope we would, I think that's the first thing we need to do.
Right, exactly, and that's, I believe that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna start from scratch and
Who's the
move up.
point person with whoever's hired out of Reading? Who's gonna be the one, is it Danielle that's going to be?
Danielle will probably interface unless the TA does. I mean, you folks still use, this was a sponsored item, article from you folks. If you send us direction that you want Danielle to spearhead this with the lead out of Reading, that's fine.
Mr. Valiakonis, what do you think this should come from? Should it come from administration, should it come from CPC?
We have a housing board too,
I think it's an administrative effort, to be honest with you, Sean.
Okay.
I think it should be managed through administration. The original proposal did come into the administrative office a few
Right.
years ago. That's where it originally came in, that Danielle and I had some discussions.
So you're gonna leave it with you?
Well, I think that's the appropriate place.
I don't find, that's fine, and Danielle will support you, we wanna know. We want the direction on who's gonna manage that. So, that's fine.
And I hope, Greg, give Reading, or whoever the person is that Reading hires, what we're looking for. So we're looking to corral all these units and make sure we have them all
That's
accounted for and
Ask them to
make sure.
take a look at how they do that.
I know, as Chris said, Danielle is diligently watching these properties as they turn over, and then we have to sign off on any potential sale to maintain the affordability of individual units.
Right. But I guess the concern is those that maybe put up for sale without anyone notifying us, and then they go back on the open market essentially.
Or
So
try
we
to.
lose that inventory.
Right.
Well, there is as I understand, there's a deed rider that prevents someone from slipping through the cracks. So it does force a sign-off through a town official, whether it's Danielle or myself or someone else, when, say, someone wants to go ahead and refinance. Say they paid $150,000 for a piece of affordable property, and the appraisal comes in at $400,000. The person can't take that as cash out. That's why the town has to be involved in
That's right.
monitoring and ensuring that those properties still maintain their affordable status.
Okay, so then,
But there is a legal rider with these affordable properties.
that's what I asked about before.
I'm pretty, yes, I believe there's supposed to be a legal right
And
away.
all of these projects, as they went through the process, they came through the zoning board of appeals, but they also went through mass housing. They also went through the state
There's some-
agencies that oversaw them in order to have the proper deed restrictions and the 25-year limits and the maximum amount that they can make on each one as it goes forward.
I'm not sure we're talking about just the 40Bs. There's some other things that qualify too. So,
Such as, would qualify as.
well, you got any apartment qualifies. You've got your.
Affordable, I mean.
Pardon? Apartments qualify for your count.
So long as it was part of the
No,
40B
an
affordable.
apartment qualifies. Those apartments over there, the 400 qualify, that's what got us
But that
over
was
the
under,
hill.
that was under a specific state program, that's why they all qualify.
Right,
They're not
well-
all below market rent, only 25% of them are, but we get credit for 400.
Okay.
So what
But we
happened there
also-
was, 25% of those are below market rents. And because it's all rental, we got credit for all 406 units.
Right, because
But
it's...
even though 300 of them are market rate.
Right, right.
But those aren't not so much the turnover, right, it's the...
Which they
No,
turn
but I
over.
mean, it's not like, it's not like there's a sale.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Now,
understand.
whether or not there's monitoring in relation to, that it's still maintaining 25% as
So I'm not,
market, I don't know.
I'm not exactly what the issues was, I didn't get into it with her.
Let's see what that would be.
On what they found, but they did find some issues, with 4 or 5 properties. So, and we need to we need to keep them up to compliance with, it was maybe our issues, I don't know if it was our issues, or the owner's issues, or bank issues, I'm not sure what the issues were, but there were some issues found. So, I'm just seeing that, at least we gotta keep our paperwork proper. We have, we getting, in Dutch with the state.
But I think this is a terrific undertaking, and I think we had a rush, we had a rash of these projects that came in, and then, well, each one was handled separately. I don't know if you've actually consolidated, looked at it.
Right, they haven't.
And kept it under one umbrella, so you've got the zoning board of appeals.
Well, that's what I can see the
approval, it's
value.
not the planning
Right.
commission, but-
That's why I
Yeah.
can see the value of this for
Right.
at least year one, if they can get that
Exactly.
accomplished.
And that's
I
what-
think
that's
we're
what
gonna
we're
take a look
looking
at
for.
it. At least now we have it all inventoried.
And that's what we're
then
looking for.
We may be able to take it and do it in-house after that.
Right.
It's inventory and updated as far as,
Once it's inventoried and all in one place, then we have a handle on handling
Yeah,
it.
but
I mean, you've
I
got,
don't see the value going forward after that.
right. There might be some,
Well, there may be.
but they might have to
Well, I
prove
don't see it
themselves.
right- yeah, I don't
Right
see
now,
it
you
right now.
don't, and
I
I don't
just-
either. I don't either. We have the Swan Pond properties. Remember those? There's
4 units.
Is it 4?
That's it, 2 homes, 4
Two,
units.
two, yeah, 2 townhomes.
Those are under the housing authority.
Right. Right, see, there's some under the housing authority, and that's the whole trick. We got some here, we got some there.
Bring this up earlier, on Havel Street. What's going in there? Is it?
Haverhill
Info?
Street.
Those
Those are town, those are,
7 units?
So they started developing that?
you talking Railroad Ave?
Yes.
Railroad Ave is gonna be 12, is that what you said? It's 12, I
They finally
believe,
started.
3 buildings of 5, 2 buildings of 5, I believe, and 1 building of 2.
Okay. So I saw what they put in, I was concerned, it looked like it was gonna be storage facilities. That's what it looked like.
Well, yeah, no, they're gonna be
But
houses.
there's a pretty comprehensive landscaping design plan that was supposed to be part of that project. but
And it still
somebody
is, it's still there.
Is monitoring.
The road that's there is, the original Railroad Ave is going away.
But
But
it's gonna be
what-
affordable?
There,
Portion of
there
it?
is no affordable in that.
Oh, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, no, well, they didn't bring it in that way.
Okay, all right. So off
So
topic.
we were
Get back on track
vulnerable
here.
for another project, and the people on Mount Vernon Street didn't want it to come in as a 40B.
Okay. All right.
They probably never would have come in as a 40B anyways,
They
because,
had- Well, the thing is, they had one in their neighborhood.
right around the
Right,
corner.
Right.
And that's how the zoning change happened there, because that wasn't multifamily, it's the only multifamily we have in town. And it was local business.
Railroad Ave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right there, yeah.
It was local business, and they came in with a kind of a scare tactic that they were gonna make it 40B, and
But
we
they
said
were
no, you
moving
said
the road
yes,
out,
and it went that
Away
way.
from the river a little bit, there's gonna be some passive recreation.
Yeah,
Developed.
so that road is gonna move, once they've got the buildings up,
Yep.
and we agreed with this, because normally they're supposed to have their right-of-way completed, but there is already access to the back and right-of-way to that property because of that access. We wanted them to build their buildings, and get most of their construction done to allow the traffic to flow to the 2 or 3 houses in the back before they move the roadway over. We thought it was, that was a safe way to go in that situation, and this is not something that we have come up. This is a special project. It's not like something we're gonna allow to happen often. We wouldn't do that with a subdivision. Put your road in to Binder, and then you get your building permits. But we did building permits because there was already access to the back and to that lot from right away.
Finance Committee? No? You taking your hand down?
Well, when this project first came up in October, there was some discussion that Reading was trying to involve a number of other communities as well. And so I guess my question would be, what are the communities that are going to be involved in this? North Shore?
You must remember, this is not Reading, they're just going to host the location, this is MAPC.
North Reading, Reading, Saugus, Wilmington.
That's who signed on?
Saugus and Wilmington? Is that what you said?
Correct.
Yes.
That's what Mr. Fode said.
Per the agreement.
Great, thanks.
My pleasure.
Is that all you had?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Anything else relative to this agreement before? All in favor?
Aye.
For 1 year.
It's up to you if you want. Do this one.
Can't do that.
I know. Good night. Have a nice evening.
Thanks for sticking around. Sorry, I kept on forgetting you were back there.
That's all right. I do like to listen to what's happening in budget.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
You're a sick individual. All right, seasonal license renewals. Eight.
Thank you.
No paper clips, we get nothing?
There was one on there. So,
Forget it, you keep going.
Find the right page. Two sign.
No, it's fine, okay, it's right here.
All right, don't put it all.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew the common victual license for GFMI Hillview Snacks, 149 North Street, to expire December 31st, 2014, subject to all regulatory department requirements.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
I guess the
4-0.
course didn't open on the 15th.
Clubhouse, I mean, the golf shop was open.
Yeah, right there, that's a requirement.
Mr. Chairman, I move to renew their seasonal wine and malt beverage club license for the Thompson Country Club, Inc., DBA A Pro Shop, 2 Mid-Iron Drive, to expire December 31st, 2014, subject to all regulatory department requirements.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chair, I move to sign the ABCC 2014 seasonal renewal certification.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the ABCC 2014 seasonal estimate form.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
On page 4, there was another seasonal license renewal.
Yeah, I think he's going to be.
It was asked to
Robert
pass
Connors?
over, Robert Connors.
Sorry.
I was asked to pass it over.
Okay, we're passing it over. I had it on my list.
Oh, we didn't
Very
return
good
the
catch.
info for the meeting. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Good on that. All right. Review warrant article list for June.
I didn't
Oh,
sign
I'm
the
sorry.
second one, right?
Sorry. Item 11, review warrant article list for June town meeting. I believe there's a revised list that was here this evening for us.
There was.
Mr. Valiakonis, you want to take that?
The first several articles are routine, and that would include the the first 6 articles are articles we typically included in a special town meeting in past years, and as a result of the lack of a quorum that we had a couple of years back, we made a decision to include all of our current year business within the annual town meeting, which means it's not subject to the quorum requirement, so that's the reason why these are here. And the articles would include the FY 2014 budget amendment, funding the FY 2014 snow and ice deficit, appropriation of funds to various stabilization funds, which includes the capital improvement stabilization fund, the water infrastructure stabilization fund, and the general stabilization fund. And if necessary, to fund any overlay deficit that may exist for fiscal year 2014. So those are the articles, again, related to the current fiscal year. We then, with Article 7, break into the routine articles for the annual town meeting, which would include the selection of town officers, hearing and acting on committee reports, authorizing...
Mr. Bellington, can I just...
Of course.
stop you? Do you have an extra copy of that? The Finance Committee doesn't have the revised version.
I do not. Here. I'll share with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Starting with number 9, authorizing the DPW director to accept easements.
Question regarding that.
Yes, sir.
In relation to the school building project, there may be an easement that comes forward.
Okay.
Does this warrant article capture that?
If the town is granting an easement, then it has to be a separate warrant article for that purpose. So this is only to accept.
To accept.
To grant, there would need to be a separate warrant article to do that.
Then I would ask to have one additional one put in.
I had a notation on that. I also thought, Sean, depending upon how the negotiations go with that, we may need one to purchase, some sort of land too.
Yeah, we might make a good point. We might as well put one in as a placeholder. Greg, did you capture that, what Steve and I were
Yeah, I
just discussing?
have one article for the granting of easements associated with the school project. Second article potentially for the purchase of land associated with the school project.
Thank you.
I don't even know. Well, the purchase would include, up to and including eminent domain. Sean, I just said that the article would include the purchases up to and including eminent domain. You're taking.
We hope we never get there, but
No, we don't know.
I think we have to cover.
No, just have to cover it so that, if we have to go that route.
Okay. Two articles, again, both related to the school project. The first for easements, second for purchase and/or taking of land associated with the school project. So those are here, and we'll work with council on the language of those.
Thank you.
If you want me to continue,
Sure.
Number 10 is authorization for the treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements. Article 11 is necessary for the acceptance of Chapter 90 highway construction funds. Article 12 would be bills of a prior year. Article 13 would be the FY 2015 operating budget. Article 14 would be transfer of funds from other sources to supplement the fiscal year 2015 budget. What we've done in the past is we've taken one-time expenses that may exist within the operating budget, cull them out, and look to transfer and utilize other sources of funds. It remains to be seen whether this article will be necessary, but we do want to submit it. Article 15 is approval of the capital improvement plan. Article 16 is funding of retirement obligations. That would be for both town and school employees. Article 17 would be transfer of funds to the solid waste stabilization fund. That would be from the sanitation budget, if there's any positive balance that remains. Article 18 would be appropriation of funds to the OPEB trust fund. Article 19 would be transfer of funds from FY 2013 retained earnings. Article 20.
What would you, just from a numbering standpoint, I know you can mess around with it. Why would you put the OPEB thing right after the funding retirement obligations? And be all part of the same discussion.
Yeah, it'd actually probably be better up higher on the list. We just put it together randomly, Steve.
Okay.
Just as they were coming in.
Is it 13 or 14 on
Retained earnings.
19?
It would have been monies that would have been certified with the free cash certification back in September, so I defer to Liz as to
It's
what.
14.
It's a 14 versus a 13. Article 20 would be funding the irrigation system for the Hillview Country Club, as the committee had indicated to you when they came in 2 weeks ago.
Why,
That's
why,
CIP.
why
That'll
not
be under
just
capital.
put that in the capital expenditure list?
It was submitted as a separate warrant article, we're just drawing attention to it. We can certainly do that, but it was submitted as a separate article by the commission.
Part of the capital budget.
It's under the cap.
So you want it deleted?
Get line item voted?
No.
No. It should be taken off here and put under cap.
Done. Article 21 is rescinding borrowing authorization, March 19th, 2013 town meeting.
And which one was that?
Wasn't it 12?
What are we
12.
trying to accomplish here?
Which one was it? What did we borrow for?
You will hear from our outside auditors. This is a request from them. We authorized to borrow in March of 2012, 107 million and change, and we're not borrowing all that. So he is requesting that we rescind a piece that we're not borrowing.
We don't remember what it was for.
I'm sorry?
We don't remember what it was for.
The high school, middle school project?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What else do we, go on?
Okay.
Mr. Aller.
What else would have we done, yeah?
But what do you mean we're not spending it all, we're not borrowing it all?
We're not borrowing
We're not-
107
No,
million.
the state's paying money. So
State's
that
paying
should have been
a portion.
a different number.
They approved the whole 107.
But I thought we.
No,
had
no, the
approved-
state required us to approve the
No, we had to
entire
approve the
project.
whole number.
Absolutely, because the state required it.
Right.
In
It
case
was-
they didn't pony up.
Well, exactly, there was no guarantee the state was going to reimburse us anything.
We can wait until the project's over. It was a
Yeah, I
request-
think
it
maybe
was a
that
request
would
from
be a
him.
better thing to do.
It's in the management letter, so,
I think so.
Has it been explained to them, though, that we were required by the state?
yes. So he will explain, it's one of the management letter comments, so when he
So
comes
we haven't seen that
in,
report yet?
No.
he'll be in about a month or so.
I'd be reluctant to do anything before completion of the project and close out of the
I
project
know, but you might
expenses.
want to, in response to him, manager's
Mhm.
response to his comments.
No, I did have a discussion with him, and he felt we could at least rescind for the piece that we received from MSBA.
But that's only a small portion of the project right now,
And it's still subject to audit.
and we still have to do it again, so.
We can wait.
Just tell him he's jumping the gun.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I'm a little uneasy.
We
on
Tell
that.
him we don't agree with him.
disagree that we don't want to have too much on the books as far as that goes, but I think it's a little premature.
We plan on doing it at the end of the project. Who knows, the state may not pay all that.
Never know what's going to happen. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Is it back for the override, third time?
No, the
Yeah,
override
but
is for the
Just
whole
can occupy the
amount.
building.
No, I know, but if we do this, then we're not.
Yeah,
Then we
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
go-
right.
Yeah, I can buy the building. Okay.
Article 22 would be funding miscellaneous repairs to town buildings.
Is that not part of the capital
No,
plan?
that's the 50,000 that we.
That's separate, and you still want to treat it that way, okay.
This is-
Yeah, because it's all for little,
It's all little stuff.
yeah, okay.
And
Did
as
we do
is-
this last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
We did in October.
We
Do we have a
did,
list?
we did in October,
Are
remember?
there any projects that we know of that,
Is there a project list?
Yeah.
50,000 was spent on?
I think there's still some projects open that haven't get done yet.
But as long as.
I'd just like to
another
see
issue.
what we spent the $50,000 on. Greg, do you have any idea?
I'll get you a listing, Sean.
Okay.
'Cause
It's
I
just
remember
nice to
town
know
meeting.
what was done, that's
Yeah.
all.
You didn't notice?
Not the
No.
renovations of room 14.
They're being done one at a time.
Yeah, they
and
might,
it's
yeah, sure,
all-
yeah, all that stuff, but it'd be nice to know. what-
To date, anyway.
Yeah.
I gotta get hustling. if
Renovations
we
to
gotta
this
spend
room?
it.
Correct. That would be Article 23.
That's separate from funds to town buildings?
I mean, it could be combined within, but we wanted to show it separately because it was an item that came up in the board's budget discussions.
Is there a amount in that?
Not yet.
I thought I was gonna ask what the estimate was on 23, and is it a capital item?
No,
No.
the dollars aren't large.
Oh, we thought, we were talking pretty,
Yeah, I thought.
big while ago.
He's
He's
left.
got-
He's gone.
He's got a flight in about 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought it
We were
was
talking about a horseshoe.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about.
granite and marble and
Raised.
figures, after I leave, it's all gonna come in then, right?
So, I mean,
A real-
depends on the
real
extent of
gamble.
what we're talking about here. But,
24 would be an article, bylaw governing sex offenders in the community. This is a proposal that Chief Murphy has submitted. It's being reviewed by town council. When the review of town council is complete, we'll have Chief Murphy come in and explain it to the board. And then we have a number of reauthorizations of revolving funds. Lastly, today's the deadline, there were no petition articles received through the town clerk's office. So that's the good news.
Greg, do we need an article to put money that might be available this year into an account such that it doesn't get gobbled up in the free cash certification? Or is that basically covered by, I don't see, I see stabilization fund, I don't see the debt stabilization
Yeah, so
fund.
3 and 5 do exactly what you're hoping to accomplish, Bob.
Capital improvement stabilization.
That's called
Oh,
the
that's
debt.
right, it's
Same
the
thing.
capital, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the real name of it is called the capital
It's the
improvement.
name, yeah, got me.
But that'll do what you're
Yeah.
looking to accomplish. Okay. All right.
I
Great.
keep calling it debt stabilization, and I didn't see the word there, so,
I think Abby has a different name for it.
yeah.
All right.
She doesn't like it, I know.
Town administrator's report? Oh,
We
sorry.
go to retaining law bylaw. Retaining law bylaw, wasn't it gonna be revisited by various boards, committees, and commissions and come back with something? Because we had a little something we proposed in October, and then that kind of,
Who was supposed to take it? Was that supposed to be?
I think it was gonna be in conjunction with the CPC and the Board of Appeals. We were going to address it sooner rather than later. There was an attempt made, which drew some considerable concern on the budgetary part, but it's okay, at least it stimulated the discussion. But the issue doesn't go away, and if not, it's going to come back to the next town meeting.
Have you heard anything, Craig, from CPC?
Nor the council went through, council did draft the bylaw, as we all know. It was discussed back in August for October town meeting and put on hold at that time.
Right, and there was, we're going to bring it up. We're going to wait a whole year, I didn't think. I wish I had thought of it earlier. What'd you say?
I said 10% of this number. This number. Average cost of $325. It's $5,000. Yeah, the budget challenge of the fight. And it has nothing to do with snow. It's all roads.
Right. Legal bills?
So, I think, what do we want to do? Nothing we want to do? Nothing's going to be done? We're going to inquire?
So the administration inquire of Board of Appeals and CPC if they intend to come and vote with the warrant article?
We'll do.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks for coming. Glad to see you.
Well,
Sort of.
always a pleasure.
Pleasure's all yours.
She was always in.
Okay, so, legal bills?
Legal bills.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve legal bills for January 2014, the amount of $3,999.52 as follows. Copeland and Page General, $3,675.52. Copeland and Page Labor, $324.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0, one absent.
We do this.
What's that?
For the 1-year extension of the contract.
Was it on the agenda? It wasn't on the
No.
agenda.
No.
Let's not do it.
We gotta go back to minutes for the end.
Yeah, we're gonna pass on it.
No.
Do it next meeting.
Can we actually agree to do that? There's been correspondence back and forth.
I'm sorry?
As a board, have we actually agreed as we were looking to do?
I thought the consensus coming out of the last meeting, we gave Greg the authority to go and try to settle this up to 2%. That's my recollection, I don't know.
Mine too.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to have those items on the agenda for the next meeting. For your vote, the board still has to vote.
Do you have a question, Paul?
No?
Town administrators report?
Gentlemen, you may have heard about the Tennessee gas pipeline coming through town. I had met with a representative a couple of weeks ago about a project which involves the installation of a 36-inch gas transmission line along the National Grid easement from the Wilmington Town Line to the Linfield Reading Town Line in the area of Havel Street. As I previously reported to the board, there are several major street crossings that are involved, which is Main Street in the area of Walmart, Park Street in the area of Damon Road, and Haverhill Street in the area of Mentis Farm Lane. It was my understanding, based upon conversations with the representative from Tennessee Gas Pipeline, that the project was Phase 2 of a larger project from Western Massachusetts and was in fact about 4 years away. Then I learned after the meeting, the individual went out and talked to a bunch of residents. So, and I can assure you all of those residents called my office. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to
Probably
let you
got in touch with
know.
us, too.
I want to let you know that the project is in the planning stages. The permitting would be via the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, and the Massachusetts DPU that would hold hearings. The Tennessee Gas Pipeline has indicated a desire to work with the town and work with residents cooperatively. However, we're awaiting additional information about the project at this point relative to where the permitting process will go. I do know that there are hearings that are required, and there was a pipeline project that did catch a portion of North Reading in the area of Marblehead Street a number of years back, and we'll go back and look at the file and see what's required. But the fact that there were residents and neighbors that were contacted, I wanted to alert the board in public session. The company did come forward and introduce it to me and indicated that they would be providing us with further information and input into the project if it's going to go forward.
Greg, can I suggest something? In light of the fact that this representative went out, started knocking on doors and going to probably ask permission, I think what needs to be done, we need to contact them, and we need to hold some sort of public hearing here. I mean, I've been contacted by enough of people regarding this since this occurred last week that I think it was highly inappropriate for him to go out and do that.
Well, would it be more of a public information?
Public information.
Because, I
and
mean,
they-
there's nothing proposed yet, right?
Oh, it's, no,
And I think.
Well, I mean, formally proposed.
I think the pipeline needs to get in touch with any state or federal authority that needs to issue permits and see if they'll be willing to come and be present too, because these people have a lot of questions. I don't have any answers for them. Really don't, other than what the information you provided to us. And I think they're deserving of some information at this point. I know I'd want it.
You know, I concur. The representative went out and knocked on the doors, and
I mean, you know, for example, is there a map showing the path of this thing through town? I imagine we're just a piece of the whole project.
But, yeah, but it is, it's the.
But it goes all the way
it's
through
national
the
grid.
town.
It goes right on the high tension wires.
Yeah.
Where all the high tension wires.
Yeah, and that's why they've been clearing all the stuff out over the past
Right,
year
but
or so, yeah.
That's where it is, so, you know, right behind David Street.
Yeah. All the way
It's
through
the
to
Walmart,
Middleton.
you know,
But, I mean, yeah,
Crosses
we should have a
wetlands.
map, we should be able to.
Yeah, Bob, I've actually seen a map that depicts the easement, and of course shows the pipeline approximately within the easement, but it would be entirely on the N-Star transmission lines that are there. Again, what I understand is that this is Phase 2. Phase 1 is from suburban Albany to Dracut, roughly paralleling Route 2. And they want to provide gas to Vermont and New Hampshire, so there'll be spurs off of it. And then that,
I'd like to get some to Charles Street, but go ahead.
then that line would terminate, as I understand, in the area of Dracut. And then the second line, which would impact North Reading, would be constructed from Dracut to here. And then it would terminate just over the Reading-Linfield town line. Apparently, there's the gas pipeline that we talked about that was permitted 20 years ago. It would terminate at that location, just over the Reading-Linfield line.
Good thing.
But I understand your concerns about holding a preliminary meeting. I will contact the person who came to me and ask that they go forward and get something going on the local end, because it's almost a day doesn't go by where I don't get a phone call from
Yeah, I
someone.
tell them within 30 days, they need to be back to you within a date and time for us to hold this.
Just come and make a presentation as to what the project is, what it's all about.
And how we benefit from it.
We don't.
I was kind of surprised, because again, I thought they needed to get the permit secured on Phase 1 before they proceeded to Phase 2, but that didn't happen.
I'm grateful there's a gas line that goes down my street.
Just an FYI, I've received notice from the Mass Department of Public Utilities concerning renewal of our franchise license agreements with Verizon and Comcast. Both licenses expire in 2018, Comcast January 2018, and Verizon June 2018. Although it seems like a long ways off, 4 years away, we've been asked to kind of get the process moving in terms of interested individuals willing to serve on the Cable Advisory Negotiation Committee. So what my office will do, and I will do, is we'll reach out to those individuals who are on the committee the last time the contract was negotiated, alert them that this new contract will be coming up for negotiation in 2018. The process really needs to begin about 3 years prior to the contract expiration, so it's not too late to begin getting that committee together, charging that committee for the negotiation of contracts and going forward at this point.
So this is something separate and apart from the Cable Advisory Board?
Yeah, this is a separate group that was responsible for negotiation of the agreements.
Okay.
And we may want to, in preparation for that, have Copeland and Page look at our franchise license agreements and make some recommendations back to us in areas that they think could be changed to be beneficial to the town, rather than spinning our wheels.
I don't know if you recall, but Phil Dardino, who's moved out of town, was very much involved with that. And there was an attorney that they used that had a fair amount of expertise in this area. I don't remember the name of the attorney.
There was a guy by the name of Bill Hewig that worked with K&P. I'm not sure he's there anymore, but that was the attorney's name. So anyway, my thought is to at least give K&P an opportunity to look at the agreement, to give us some substance.
K&P doesn't have someone, let me know, because I think I know of someone.
Now, there was somebody
does that.
outside of K&P that was involved too.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's the council from Stoneham.
You know what, the next time, the next building committee meeting, Phil will be there. I'm sure he'll remember what.
Last on my list is, as Liz indicated this evening, Mr. Hingston and his company has completed the audit report for fiscal year 2013. He'd like to come in and introduce the audit and the management letter to the board at an upcoming meeting. So we will schedule that as time permits going forward, and move forward in that regard. So I do have a copy of the management letter, and I will give you a copy of it. It's an analysis of any findings that they have relative to the financial and general management of the town. As I review it, there's nothing of major concern or issue in here, but I'll give the board an opportunity to review it prior to your discussion with Mr. Hinkson coming up. And then lastly on my list was learning that one of our longtime library employees passed away over the weekend, Kyle Eisenhart, who is a very dedicated and loyal employee in the library, did pass away, and all of us on the town side are very saddened to hear that news, and we wish the best for her family. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Old new business, Mr. O'Leary?
The only thing I want to mention, certainly, my condolences to Kyle's family, and great employee. But additionally, the town lost an icon this past week, Mr. Arthur Kenny, former principal of the high school. And what a terrific fellow Mr. Kenny was, and everybody refers to him as Mr. Kenny too. The athletic field is named after him. He was a professional ball player back in the 30s and 40s, and for Holy Cross, and World War II veteran, but an illustrious career. But he really left his mark here in North Reading. He knew every kid in that school, and I don't know how many years he was the principal, but it seemed like forever. But not only that, it's funny, when we were down at the dedication of the baseball field for Frank Carey, Arthur was a featured individual there, and my son Kevin happened to be, on the team. He was going to pitch that day, and so I said, "Oh, Mr. Kenny, how are you?" And he goes, "That boy over there, is that your son?" I said, "Yeah, he is." I don't know what it is, the mannerisms or something, but he knew the kids, and he had been away for so long. But he touched so many lives and had a significant positive influence on this community. But he had a pretty good run at 97 years.
Yeah, wow.
And was sharp as a tack, Yeah, so it's fantastic, and he was a great public servant. To his son David, again, my condolences, but I know, I'm sure he's not sad. I mean, he had his father on for a long time, so. But to Mr. Kenny, I salute him. Thank him very much. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Fode?
It's a good run, 97. Mr. Chair, just two quick things.
Aren't you 97? Oh, no, he was stacked that way.
I have 47 to go on that. First, I want to commend everybody who helped out with the Alex Carpenter celebration. I'm not going to name anybody because I'm sure I'll forget someone, but it really was a great event. The kids who showed up enjoyed it, and I did speak to her father during the event and afterwards, and he couldn't, show any more appreciation to the town. And I just thought it was a great event. So all those involved, great job and thank you. The water bill saga continues. I got a call from someone whose bill was past 91 days, tried to pay online, couldn't pay online because if the read is longer than 91 days, I'm told that they have to manually take it out of the system and the person can't pay for it online. I guess that is a lot of work for staff here, but it also is an inconvenience to property owners who want to pay their bill online. So we got to come up with a way of figuring out how we can get these things read in a timely manner and stay within that 91-day reading period.
Do you have anything else? Because
That's it.
just piggyback that in terms of, that's an issue that I've heard about. The other issue is someone contacted me, and as a result of the meter being read at about 113 days, it put them in the other tier by about 1,000 gallons. So it's not a lot of money, but it's an additional amount of money that if it was read close to the 90 days, it wouldn't be that additional cost. So I think there's something that we need to do. Is it that we have one part-time reader?
He's actually full-time, but the thought dawns on me that we may look at some extra help during the times of year where this happens most frequently.
This happens every winter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you must have had snowshoes and ski lifts and everything else to get them to, I can understand why.
Get in my bag, yeah.
Yeah, it's a chore this time of year, especially the winter that we had, but something needs to be done.
I understand that, and that's why I'm going to go back and look at having some additional staff on hand to be able to do this during those peak periods. I think that's the answer. It's not going to work any other way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Messere.
I just wish Helena Minton a speedy recovery. And with respect to the reception for Alex Carpenter, I just commend the young lady, not only for her achievements, but the way she just sat there and took pictures and signed for every single kid an adult that was in the line. I mean, just tremendous young lady. I don't have anything else.
Mr. Messere. I too wish to commend everyone, especially our fellow board member, Mr. Prisco, for picking up the reins and running with that, coordinating the organization of the Alex Carpenter ceremony. It was a very nice couple hours down there last Saturday. In addition,
The weather was great.
Oh, we got lucky. We got lucky with the weather. The sun felt warm for the first time since, I think, October. So it was pretty good. In addition to that, I too want to wish Helena Minton a speedy recovery due to her unfortunate accident this past weekend. And I also extend my condolences to the Eisenhart family. And other than that, happy St. Patty's Day to everyone.
Still?
And that, the motion to adjourn.
You moved to adjourn, right? I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.